The Guildhall clock has struck 4 o'clock. So we're going to start the committee proceedings off. I am deputising for a short while because your regular chair, Stephen Edwards, is stuck somewhere between Dungiven and this city, but he assures me that he's going to be here as soon as he can, and he'll take over the proceedings once he's here. So I'm going to ask the Director to take us through the notice and summons of meeting and members' attendance and apologies. Karen?
You are hereby summoned to attend the meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, on Thursday, the 16th of March 2023 at 4 p.m. So moving on to attendance, Alderman Devaney.
Here, Karen.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Kerrigan. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Doyle. Yeah, Michaela, yes, I've just marked you there. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Edwards. Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Ferguson.
Here, Karen.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Jackson. Councillor McGinley.
And Shaw, Karen online.
Councillor Sonoya Bauer.
Yeah, Karen.
And Councillor Tierney. Thank you, members.
Thanks, Karen. And I'm going to read the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Council office or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. So that's that, done and dusted. And next item on the agenda is declarations of interest. So, Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. I have a few items to declare. First of all, in relation to the deputation, I'd like to declare that I'm an employee of the Western Health and Social Care Trust. In item number 8, advice services, Chair, you would know I'm a member of the advice panel. Item 9, the grant aid, I would declare as a director of Hillcrest Trust. And in item 10, the sport grant aid programme, I would declare that I'm a member of Napier-Said Derry.
Thank you, Christopher. Any other? Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. And similar declarations of interest to Councillor Jackson. Number 8, I'm a director of Cairn Hall Resource Centre, and item number 9 as well, as there's a few organisations in there that will be connected to, so they're all non-pecuniary obviously, but just to declare them and also make a point that I don't know if I have to make this, but I'll make it anyway just to be clear. My wife's an employee of the Western Health and Social Care Trust.
I noticed in the chat box that Councillor Rachel Ferguson has declaration for item 9, board member of Shantala Women's Activity, or Strathfoyle Women's Activity Group. Councillor O'Neill, declaration of interest for Western Trust. Councillor Ferguson again, item 8, advice panel. Councillor Doyle.
Just in a similar vein, I'm on the advice panel, but also on the board of Dove House and in Grant Aid. I'm on the board of Rainbow Child and Family Centre. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle, and I'll declare an interest, item 8, a member of the advice panel as well. And Michaela?
Yes, Chair, declaring interest on item 10, sport grant aid as a member of Sigerson's GA Club.
Thank you. And I would imagine Paula's going to be going around their sheets later to get those formalised. Yeah, you have that to look forward to. So The first item on the agenda, we've got a delegation from the Western Trust. So we have Donna Keenan, who's the Director of Primary Care and Older People's Services, also the Executive Director in Nursing. We have Chris Curran, the Communications Manager, and we have Julianne McNally, who's Care Homes Advice and Support NI. And the important matter that they're here to discuss today is care home top-up fees. So you're very welcome, everybody. I see you're all there over in Altnagelvin. So if you'd like to kick off there, please. We can't hear anything here at the minute. Can you hear us?
They're just on mute there. It's showing on our screen here. I'm online and the Altnagelvin meeting room is showing as muted. If that helps.
Chair, can you hear us?
We can hear you now. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And just to note, I have Caroline Sweeney with me as well. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Caroline Sweeney, Head of Service for the Community Social Work Teams in the Western Trust.
Thank you. And Chair, we're going to hand over just on the first question, which Caroline's going to answer around the Council had requested to the Western Health and Social Care Trust to provide exact details of the additional services at the 31 care homes charging top-up fees to relatives compared to those 20 care homes that don't charge any extra. So I'm just going to hand you over to Caroline.
So Chair, with regard to that question, top-ups are an agreement between the third party and the care home, and for reasons which are commercially sensitive and really down to individual choice, we can't get into the exact detail because of confidentiality for individuals. However, just to note, the consultation on the reform of adult social care has identified that the department do propose a review of third-party top-up fees for care homes, and we do await the outcome of that review. That's finished, Chair. Yeah.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Caroline. Donna, would you have anything to add to that?
No, Chair, at the minute we don't. That's our position in the Western Trust at the minute. Because of the third party agreement is between the care home and the individual third party, that's where the top up will be originating from. If you're happy, Chair, I can move on to the second question unless there's any other comments.
Well, if we go on to the second question, and then we'll take members' comments following that on both issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the second question was to ask what future plans do the Western Health and Social Care Trust have to provide trust-owned and managed care homes within our district? And currently, there is a review which is just commencing within the Trust to look at the beds available within the community to ensure that all assessed need is met within the district. We're not in a position at the minute to provide you with this information because the review is just commenced. And what we're looking at is the demographic information of what we have at the minute to see have we got the right beds for our patients and our clients going forward into the future. And that's the review we're about to commence. So, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a number of members in the chamber. We've got members online as well. So the first member that has indicated is Councillor Jackson. Christopher?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I suppose we're in a very strange situation where we've received the deputation, but there hasn't been a whole lot of information that's been shared, and it's understandable if there's a review underway, but it's extremely disappointing. And I suppose one of the things that strikes me is that if we were in this situation, it would have made sense for that to be communicated to council officers to say that now is not the most appropriate time to have this deputation, and if and because it is a massive issue, it's a massive issue that the trust are working on a daily basis. It's a massive issue that us as elected reps are contacted on quite regularly. So it would be good to have the deputation and have the opportunity to have a full discussion in relation to the issue of top-up fees. But if we can't have it whilst a review is being carried out, I just question the need for this deputation, because it's an issue that needs to be looked at, and it needs to be looked at through the review. But this is an opportunity for the trust to sort of use this council chamber as a platform, and they tell the general public what the plans are and the outcomes of the review. So I suppose just in relation to that, I find it disappointing that we're in this position, and I would ask that this deputation is rearranged at a later date when we can have a fuller discussion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose in a similar vein with Councillor Jackson, I think the response to the first question was that due to the confidential nature of the third party, of the agreement between the third party and the care home, that the trust can't answer or feel that they can't answer, has just shut that question down. And then the fact that because there's a review going on, that at this stage, and I might have picked this up wrong, so I apologise, but the way that I picked it up was that because there's a review going on, you're not in a position to share it with this chamber at this stage. I think that's incredible. I think there was a massive opportunity here for the Western Trust to inform the public about this review, how it was being carried out, what stage the review was at, what the hopeful outcome would be, how the public can engage with the review if there's that opportunity. But it very much seems to me as if the two questions have just been closed down very quickly. And it almost seems as if the trust don't trust this chamber or the people within it to have a discussion about something which impacts on our constituents and people right across this city and district. And I'm sure if the representatives from the trust are involved in the review, will know the huge anxiety that it brings to the members of the public whenever they're trying to step through this process, and whenever they're being asked to for additional top-up fees and all of the added stress and the complications throughout it. I thought this was going to be an opportunity where we, as elected representatives, could help inform that potential review, help pass collectively the concerns that we have received from members of the public onto the trust, which would hopefully have helped inform any review that was going on. But it seems as if, and again, it seems as if the review is a closed shop for the trust, and they don't want elected representatives' involvement or the involvement or the opinion of this committee as a whole. So I would like to know when they can share the outcome of the review with us, when they can or will be in a position to talk about top-up fees with us. There's no one within this room or within this meeting that is going to breach the confidentiality nature, and we fully understand that we wouldn't expect the trust to go into individual circumstances, but a broad overview would have been helpful. That's been just not been taken on board in my view. So I would like to know when they can share the review with us, when they can share or want to have a conversation with us as elected representatives about care home top-up fees, And I would agree with Councillor Jackson. I think that this meeting should be rescheduled so that we can have this conversation, because I certainly don't want this to be just a closed shop where the review takes place. It's published somewhere, members of the public don't see it, and everybody just moves on and continues to do the same thing. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Doyle, please.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, it's that out saying, isn't it? This meeting could have been an email. There are so many people who are interested in the outcome of this review, and I would have expected the courtesy of being told that we were going to get told absolutely nothing today at this meeting. I totally agree with Christopher and Brian. I came here today to hear the work that was going on. I have constituents who are interested in it. I know that I think it was Sean that originally brought this motion before Council. I mean, if we're going to be partners on this and a whole range of other things, I would have certainly expected the courtesy of being told we were going to get a 5-minute short shift, because that's, to be honest, what I think we've got, and I'm very disappointed about it. So certainly the meeting has to be rearranged, because this is an issue that is becoming increasingly important to people that we serve, yeah, I'm very, very disappointed.
Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. Look, on a similar vein, but I do agree with the rest of the speakers. But in relation to the confidentiality and around the fees and stuff like that, there, I do understand that is between third party and the care home. And look, this is an issue that are affecting a lot of families out there who have loved ones in care, and they're trying to see a way forward. And with the increases of top-up fees, and it's causing concern, because we're in a cost of living crisis. And I thought today maybe we would have had some understanding. And I do understand now that there is a review of the two questions that have been asked here. But at least today we could have had some idea what the trust was hoping to get out of it, on a model, on a way forward, and how people could tie into that review. Is it open to the public for the tie-in, or is it just a review within the trust itself, and how? And look, the only thing I would say is, look, I would hope at a future date, and it will be in the new council mandate, that the trust is able to come back to us again when these reviews are carried out, or give us an idea of what is happening within the reviews, because there are serious concerns out there, as I say, with loved ones, with families in care, and the cost of and around that. And then the second one, and around, the number of those owned by trusts and stuff like that. Is there enough beds there for the care for people who need that care facility? And those are the sort of questions we would like to had some answers or some discussion on around today. But look, at the end of the day, we're here. And look, if we don't get any more information, I would hope that this meeting would be rearranged at a later date. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. I'm going to bring in Councillor Harkin now. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. Look, there's no presentation and no actual engagement here, and I think the families and the campaign organisations that have been trying to get a spotlight on this issue will be very, very disappointed. So if I could just ask, first of all, I mean, and this would be more, I'm just curious about the review, like who's involved in the review beyond the trust? Is the Department for Health involved in this review? Is the independent care home network representatives involved in it? Is RECWA involved in it, the RQIA? Could you just say who's involved in the review itself? And that would be useful to know, because I haven't heard anything about this review until now. So that would be, if you could just say something about that, that would be helpful, so we have an idea who is shaping the review, and who's going to be at the table, so to speak. To hear back from on that, if that's okay. I'm sure other people want to hear back as well.
Would you care to respond on or to Councillor Harkin's specific questions there, folks?
Yes, Chair. In regard to the review that I mentioned in relation to third-party contributions, that is a review that's proposed by the department. It was proposed through the consultation on the reform of adult social care, which closed July 22 last year. The department are hoping that that review will scope the current arrangements for third-party top-ups and decide whether or not a system of top-up fees should be retained, and if we are retaining it, to develop regulations on their use. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So should we follow up, in your opinion, with the Department of Health? I know there isn't a minister right now, but it seems like we're not just hoping to hold the trust accountable. There is people with bigger responsibility, in my opinion, than the trust, but the trust is at the centre of this as well. So if to further this discussion, should we also invite the Department of Health to the next rescheduled meeting? Because if they're directly involved in shaping it, we want to hear from them as well. And look, the findings of the review, I mean, are there dates for that? Is there any kind of knowable dates when the review is being carried out? And then it'll be released on such and such a date. Because otherwise, what we would be looking for was to speak to yourselves and the department and whoever else is involved about the type of things we would like to see in a review. So, I mean, I suppose I'm expressing my frustration along with everybody else because, you know, this is, we don't want to waste your time and we don't want to waste our time and people who are looking to us for political answers as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Harkin. We have two more indicated speakers, and then we're going to go back to the delegation. So the next indicated speaker is Councillor Boyle. Michaela.
Thank you, Chair, and I suppose thanks anyway to the Donna and Chris and Julianne for coming along, albeit a short presentation. But I suppose and I appreciate we're talking about top-up fees, and it's an important agenda. But I would like, Chair, if the panel were to be coming back again after the review or sometime within the review to give us an update. Chair, could I also ask if we could get some information? Maybe Donna might have this information, but I appreciate she may have to go searching for it. But a lot of people, obviously, within our communities and as elected representatives, we know that there's a lot of people caring for our elderly people at home also. And there's not enough practical support out there for family members who care for people in their own home or in their loved one's own home. You know, there's a lot of issues around the skills to manage that care and the support, the practical support and the social work aspect of that care as well, particularly help for young carers in terms of respite and breaks. So basically what I'm asking, Chair, is maybe if they're coming back, could they give us some information in regards to what type of a database they hold on carers that care for elderly people within their own home, and what practical support they do give them, and what kind of support that they can avail of from the trust through either their social worker or a community care team, or that, as I say, it's challenging for a lot of people having to care for an elderly person or a loved one in their own home, and for a lot of families, you know, it's often down to one member of that family because people's busy lives and whatever. So I hear it out there, and I'm sure other elected representatives hear it out there, that there isn't enough support. So I'd just like to hear more on that, if that's possible, and if there is a database that they hold for carers caring for loved ones in their own home. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michaela. And the final indicated speaker is Councillor Ferguson. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the panel for presenting here today, and albeit a very short presentation. I understand that whether you'd sent an email or come, probably wouldn't have been happy with the answer anyway, but I think what I'd like to see for a possible follow-up meeting, because I do think this is kind of closed down the conversation very much so, is the opportunity to look at the policies that are currently in place when it comes to top-up fees. I know there's commercially sensitive information, but we're not looking for that. We're looking for more of an overview of what the policy has, the Trust has with these third-party care homes, and what gaps that could possibly come forward from the review and change. I must say, Chair, I'll not keep up people's time because I know everybody's extremely busy, but I do think it's remiss to say that this was an opportunity to give an overview of what currently is in place, what is currently the Trust feels could be lacking, and what could come out of the review, and letting people understand the process that is in place. But yeah, a little bit disappointed today. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, delegation, that's every member that wishes to comment has commented thus far. And I do share the frustration expressed by, I think, every member that spoke about, our expectations versus the reality of what was presented to us today. Feedback's been quite negative, to be honest. We were expecting a really full and frank discussion about the important issue of care home top-up fees, care home provision across this trust, and it just didn't happen, which is unfortunate. So it's over to you, panel. So would you be in a position to elaborate or answer any of the questions that members have tabled?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we can come back and we can do a presentation on what the current legislation is around third-party top-up if members would feel that would be very helpful for them. We are, I think, as everywhere else in the region, is we have to conform with the legislation, but we can give everybody a presentation on what that actually currently means for third-party top-ups if members would find that would be helpful. And then I'll answer some of your other questions as we go along.
In fairness, that was my understanding of what today was supposed to be about. I don't know if there's some sort of breakdown in communication, but it was about care home top-up fees. And I would have thought that part of your delegation would be explaining the status quo with that, and maybe listening to suggestions or feedback or concerns from elected members across this chamber about how we improve that situation. Unfortunately, that's not the format that was provided today. But I would imagine people would be keen to get that presentation. They would have been keen to get it today. But I would imagine they would like to get it at some stage in the future. And I know I'm probably speaking on behalf of everybody here, but nobody is going to be against that. That's what we thought we were going to be hearing today. But in terms of the individual concerns expressed by members, are you in a position to elaborate?
Yeah, Chair, absolutely, we can come back, and I think it is probably the phraseology of the question that probably restricted us, but it's not an issue at all to come back and do a presentation on what the current arrangements are, and I think we'd be delighted to come back and do that presentation with regards, and that I think might give members just a clear indication of the legislation where we stand, and we'd be happy to take questions. I think as one of the previous councillors had said as well, there's an element where I would recommend probably from the Department of Health to get a fuller discussion, because while we wait on the outcome of the review of the social care reform as well. I think it would be a more robust discussion as well if we had our colleagues invited as well. From where we are within our own review within the trust around our care home beds at the minute in the community, we recognise as well that we are getting an elderly population with higher acuity. We have more patients who are presenting with dementia and requiring EMI beds as well. And for us, that poses a challenge, and that's why we're starting a review of all the beds we have within the residential and the nursing home sector to see what is it that we actually need going forward that will match what the demographic needs are telling us. So that's work that we're just starting at the minute, Chair, but when we have that work completed of what that model would look like, we'd be more than happy to come back and share as well.
Have we any timescales for the completion of that review, Donna?
For which one? I don't know from the Department of Health one, to be truthful. I haven't, but it's most certainly something we can go back and ask for. Within our own care home review of the model that we need to look at the bed and the models we have there, we're hoping to start that now, and we've started some work just on that, but we hope to have that completed probably within about 6 months. But there's a lot of legalities in this, and there's a lot of communication and engagement we need to do with our independent sector providers as well, and our own in-house teams as well. So it would probably be about 6 months before I'd be in a position to bring something back on that particular paper.
Okay, thanks for that. I think everybody would agree that the outcome or the outputs from today is not what we had initially envisaged. I think everybody would welcome the trust back again, because this issue is not going away. So I think we're thankful that you're willing to come back, you're willing to give us further presentations. But what I would propose is that we have a discussion in confidential today just to firm up our ask, so there's no ambiguity about expectations around the next presentation or the next delegation. Councillor Tierney?
Thanks, Chair. I just want to check. The last answer we had there, I think it was from Donna, was that they might be in a position to go back in 6 months' time. And that would be, as I understood it, the completion of the review. Can I just ask, at that stage, is the outcome of that review set in stone, or is there an opportunity for this committee to be feeding into the review? Or, are they coming here just to tell us the findings and that's it? Close the book and away they go? Or will we have a role to feed on that? Because if we don't, then we need to meet them before 6 months, because I would like to make sure that the trust and whoever is involved in the review understand our position as a committee, and the views that individual elected representatives have got from their constituents. So I think that's an important question that I support the discussion of confidentiality, but I want to find out, if this review in 6 months is done and it becomes a set in stone, if you like, policy of the trust, or there's no movement on it, then I would like to be talking to them before that. Thank you.
I would concur with those remarks, Councillor Tierney. Before we go back to the delegation, Councillor Harkin would like to comment.
Yeah, look, I agree with what Councillor Tierney said. I think we should propose that we invite the representatives from the Trust and from the Department of Health in as soon as possible before the review is completed, in order to be able to ask them about the review. Because, look, I mean, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, top-up fees are a racket, and they have become more of a burden on people because there is a cost of living crisis. So I think, and there's not a lot of discussion about them, about the fees in the press, and there should be, to be quite honest, because we know that a lot of families are really struggling as a result of these top-up fees. that it seems to be, there is legislation, but it seems to be an entirely unregulated, private care homes are unregulated in terms of what they can ask for. And the more I find out, the more shocked I am about how this happens in front of us and how families with no option are told that they have to figure out how to come up with large sums of money. So I think we should, well, I'll propose, and I think it's with the will of the council, the committee, that we ask you to come back in on the other side of the election and deal with whoever's in the committee, and that the Department of Health also send representatives to that.
Chair, through you, can we just, I would fully support that proposal, and if it needs a seconder, I'm happy to second it. But I just want to make sure that we stipulate that they come back on before the review is complete, so that if there's an opportunity for this committee to be feeding under the review, that it's not closed at that stage. But other than that, I would be quite happy to second that proposal.
Do you want to put it in the chat box? I'm a stickler. See these just verbal proposals. I'd rather see it written down, so we know exactly what we're voting on.
Chair, could I just come in for a point of clarity, please?
Yes, Donna. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's just for a point of clarity on the 6 months. The 6 months is for our own in-trust work that we're doing around our remodelling of our care home beds and our beds. With regards to the first point around the top-ups, that would be, I'm not sure what the time frame round is on that, but Caroline and I would be more than happy to come back before that with Chris to do a presentation before that, and if the Department of Health were able to link in for that. But the 6 months is regards to our own work that we're doing as we scope this around our bed remodelling.
Okay, thank you, Donna. So we've got a proposal being sort of written out by Councillor Hargan, but the gist of that, I would imagine, is that you're going to be invited back. Just to give a full and frank summary, and if there's any opportunity for us to feed on that review via a consultation, etc. But committee staff will be in touch to have a conversation about the expectations and the purpose of your delegation to the committee. So I thank you for your time today, Donna, Caroline and Chris, and we will be in touch to arrange a further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
So there is Councillor Hargan's proposal on the screen. Pretty self-explanatory. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tierney, would anybody like to comment on it? Happy to support. Nobody online?
Yes, Morris here, happy to support as well.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. I think that we take that motion as read. I still do think we need to have a brief discussion on confidential about this, if everybody's okay with that, and the chair at that time is okay with that.
Could Paula just add top up to top up?
Okay, top up fees, not just top fees. All right, so that's unanimously passed. So over to you, Chair, the real Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell, for stepping in there as I get stuck in traffic on the 6. It's about time that road was sorted out. But members, we have a committee meeting on Monday. Unfortunately, I'm only able to make it, so Tuesday, apologies. Councillor Rory Farrell is going to chair the meeting on that there. And yep. So this will be my last meeting, members, and I wanted to put this on public record rather than bring it up in confidential. I just want to thank the officer team here, especially Karen, Barry, Shumis, and Paula's with us today. I want to thank them for all their help and support over the past term. I want to thank you all members as well. Thoroughly enjoyed the committee and just behaved mostly during the last number of months. So I just want to put that in record, a massive thanks to you. And I also want to mention as well that Councillor Michaela Boyle is stepping down from council, and I did wish you well in person on, I think it was a Wednesday night, or Tuesday night. I did wish you well in person, but I just want to put that on record as well. Michaela, I do wish you well, all the best for the future as well. You're a long-time servant as Strabane, so it's definitely appreciated, Michaela. Okay, members, in terms of chair's business, I'm going to...
Chair, before you move on.
Councillor Boyle, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Chair, just on behalf of the Sinn Féin team, on Health and Communities, we too would like to offer our thanks and appreciation to you as Chair. And, you've done the job very well and very diligently, and we appreciate that. And you've been a very fair Chair. And thanks again on my behalf to the officers of Health and Communities. It's a committee that I really thoroughly enjoyed working on, and I have to say, any request that I have made or any query, it was answered promptly, and I want to thank Karen in particular, and Barry and Seamus, and the admin team for the work that they have done throughout this past 4 years, particularly supporting everybody in the chamber, but supporting every elected member as well too. But on behalf of myself, thank you. Thanks. And my party, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Tierney, go ahead.
Chair, thank you. And just to put on record our thanks to you and, of course, to your Deputy Chair, Councillor Farrell as well, for the way that you have handled this committee over this last 12 months. When you started off there, you said this is going to be my last meeting. I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be, but we can deal with that later on. But look, I think everybody across this chamber will say that you were a very fair chair. You give us all our fair chance, and I know how hard you work with officers to bring in some very interesting deputations as well. And you give people and organisations across this district an opportunity to appear before this committee and get the support of the committee and of the wider council. And I think all of those groups will have appreciated that. So on behalf of our group, well done. I suppose on behalf of our group as well, to wish Michaela all the best as she's stepping down from elected politics. I'm sure it was a very easy decision to make, Michaela, in the end of. But look, we know the hard work that you've put on over many, many years in Strabane. Obviously, I followed you as mayor, and it was very, very difficult to go to Strabane and try and make an impression when one of their own was mayor before you. So I think everyone across this district appreciates the work that you've done, and particularly not only in this council, in the assembly, and that as well. So I'm sure your family will be looking forward to you maybe stepping back. But on behalf of the SDLP, thank you, and we wish you well for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. It was remiss of me not to thank Councillor Farrell as well for being the Deputy Chair. Apologies, Roy. You've been called on probably more than other Vice Chairs, but not too much. But thanks for stepping in when you had to. Really do appreciate it. Next speaker, Councillor Doyle.
Thanks, Chair. And just to echo what you've said in relation to the staff and officers, I've really enjoyed my time on this committee as well. And the accessibility of the team in health and communities is second to none. I want to thank you for the way that you've conducted yourself and conducted these meetings over the last while. Even though it's fairly obvious that Councillor Farrell is the one who steps in when it gets difficult. He got a hammer this morning. He got a hammer in the day. But on behalf of myself and of A2 as well, I want to wish Councillor Michaela Boyle the very best. I have to say, from a lot of the issues that Michaela has brought on, particularly around sight loss, I've learned a lot. And it's fairly obvious from speaking to my colleagues in Strabane that whoever steps into Michaela's shoes will have huge shoes to fill. And that the most is really very much appreciated in our community. So one day wish you all the very best, Michaela, for the future. And I'm sure you'll enjoy not having to come onto these meetings again. But wishing you and your family all the very best.
Thank you, Councillor, and definitely appreciate that. Alderman Guy, if you're online there.
Thank you, Chair. And I nearly actually forgot that we're nearing the end of our time now. But listen, I just want to say thank you for a great job you've done as Chair this year, and your colleague there, Vice Chair Rory. All the best. You've been fair, and I'd just like to say as well, all the best to Michaela. Found her very fair when she was mayor, and any dealings I ever had with her in council. So I wish her all the best, and enjoy your retirement from politics. If you are retired from politics, you never know where people will pop up these days in the future. But all the best, Michaela. And just to say thanks to all the officers of health and communities. I have to agree with all our speakers there that nothing's too big a job for them, and they are all really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, and on behalf of the DUP group and on the health and communities, can I just congratulate you on the year that you've had. You've been a very, very fair chair and really up for the job, and say well done to your Vice Chair as well. And I would like to say once again, thanks to the officer team, Karen, Barry and Seamus, very effective in the role as well. And any questions asked, they're back very, very quickly. And I suppose last but not least, wish Michaela all the best in the future in her new venture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the Alliance Party, I want to give my thanks to yourself for the past year as Chair. As others have said, you've been very fair and very, very good in the Chair, yourself and your Vice Chair, Councillor Farrell, and to the Council officers and the whole committee. Health and Communities has been one of my favourite over the last 4 years, and I mean the council officers have gone over and above in helping understand all members and any issues that come up in this committee. And to Councillor Michaela Boyle, I wish her all the best in stepping down from council and possibly politics. It's sad to see as a fellow rural female councillor someone stepping away from politics, but I completely understand, and I hope she takes the time now to enjoy that ever-growing family of hers, and I look forward to working with whoever is coming up behind her, because they do have big shoes to fill. She's been very, very kind to me over my 4 years, so just huge thanks to you all, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. And just to add, my thanks to yourself. I think you've been a very good and fair Chair and very straightforward and allowed us to get through the business here very smoothly and easily. And also to Councillor Farrell for being the same when he's been in the Chair. And thank you to the committee officers. I'm sure we have given you some headaches, forced your head to spin a few times, but you have always been very helpful and prompt in terms of anything I've ever asked for, and that's appreciated. And all the best to Michaela in the next things that you decide to do with your life.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. I don't think there's any further speakers, so there are members of 3 items of Chair's business, and the first is Councillor Doyle.
Thanks, Chair, for allowing me to bring this forward. I'm sure it's something that everyone will recognise, and it's around the £600 vouchers that so many constituents are still having bother with. I've been absolutely inundated with calls of people who have had vouchers cancelled. One in particular, a constituent of mine has had her voucher cancelled 7 times. And no one knows why. Whenever she rings her electricity supplier, they don't seem to know. And this has been going on a long time now. It's got to the stage where people are now ringing up and being told, look, don't ring back, or ring back at the end of March. And that's just not good enough. And there seems to be 3 companies in particular, SSE Electricity, Electric Ireland and Power NI, who seem to be struggling over the last while to get these vouchers out to people. But only from about 12 today, I have 15 different addresses that I'm going to have to go and communicate to, and that's just SSE customers. They have to get the grips of this. I mean, we're not asking these companies to give out their own money. It's public money. And for a while there, it seemed to be running fairly smoothly, but it has ground to a halt in many places. There were issues that I had down in Clondara and Berrivale with addresses with some of the companies who used different supply addresses, which caused trouble. Now people are waiting weeks and weeks for answers, and when they ring up, they're not being given any information as to when their voucher is coming out. I'm sure other councillors are aware as well that there's been a number of cases where vouchers have been redeemed illegally. And I've had to direct a number of people to go and speak to the police to report it, and that shouldn't be able to happen given the process that's in place, where people need ID. So the companies need to get their grip with this, and they need to do it quickly, because I noticed there was an MLA during the week had spoken about it, the time frame being almost extended, and that's good news. But we can't just extend it and then wait for people to come to the very end of it again and be told that they're not getting their voucher, or that it's been cancelled or lost or whatever else it is. So we have a very short proposal to write to those 3 companies and basically just ask them to get it together. because there are so many people waiting, and
that in
it's
the
out
chat
of
box.
hand.
Yep, you have it all. Go ahead, sorry.
Send it ahead there, Chair, and it's really just to get the grips with this, because, like I say, this shouldn't be a complex process. Granted, if we had Stormont back, it would have been easier, but we are where we are. We can't have people waiting another month, 5 weeks, whenever people are not getting the most basic answers. So I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We have a proposal. We have a seconder. Councillor Tierney, seconded. Any speakers on the issue? Yeah, Councillor Tierney, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and I suppose thanks to Councillor Doyle for the proposal and for bringing up this really difficult problem. Every one of there's none of these that are straightforward to try and sort out. I've dealt with quite a few myself, and it's not just a simple matter of bringing up, explaining the problem. Oh, we'll get that sorted and posting out. It's chasing them and chasing them and chasing them regularly to try and get these resolved. And what you find, or certainly what I've found, is when you get one in a particular street, within a couple of hours, that street is nearly all just bombarding you because it's all the one problem, and they don't know how to sort it out. The reason that it was to be done through electricity providers is because it was to make it more user-friendly and quicker to actually get these vouchers out. I was questioning the other day whether one of the companies, which funny enough isn't named there, which I'm not going to name, had even bothered to start sending them out, because I had that many people ringing in days about this particular company. I thought they were just sitting on their hands and hadn't been doing anything. It is a massive issue across this district. People are depending on this money, and for whatever reason, they can't get access to it because a number of companies seem to not be able to deal with the process of actually getting it out. I would also share Emmett's sentiments around vouchers being redeemed by other people. And I had dealt with a number of weeks ago where private landlords were demanding the money from tenants. It wasn't theirs. We made it very clear, the guidelines around it. The money is to the person who pays the electricity. It wasn't the landlord, but they're putting these people under pressure. Thankfully, the landlords agreed to give it back. But that's only the ones that contacted us. How many others had that money removed from them who needed it, depended on it, and were expecting it? So we would fully agree with the proposal. No issue whatsoever. I would like to see how many people across this district are still waiting to have that £600 out them, because I would say people will be quite surprised at the figure. I think it would be quite high, to be honest with you. So I would be interested to see that. So if that could be included, I think it would make it and provide this committee with a bit more detail around the size of the people that are actually struggling with. Thank you.
Yeah, well, can you put that into the chat box, add it in? Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go to the next speaker, Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and we're happy to support the proposal as well. We have unfortunately been contacted by people who haven't received their £600. We've been able to help some people get it, but other people were still chasing it. And not only does it mean that they don't have the £600 to put to help them, it's demoralising as well to not be able to access something that people have a right to. So, yeah, we should definitely do what we can to put the companies under pressure to figure it out, and also to find out how many people haven't received the help they're due. Look, we supported these vouchers. We campaigned for them. We campaigned for more. There still needs to be more cost of living help. sometimes in the discussions in the media, energy companies announce that they're reducing their prices, but their prices are reduced not back to the beginning before the cost of living crisis, but they're reduced a little bit. But prices are still through the roof, and a lot of people are still struggling. Food prices are going up. There's lots of inflation that people are still really struggling with. So there should be more cost of living help. There's another way that we could have dealt with this, or an additional way, and that would have been price caps and more regulation. And that would have meant that some of the difficulties people have faced in terms of accessing whatever voucher it was wouldn't have been the same. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we were left with voucher schemes, which create these kinds of problems because it means trying to get different amounts of money to different groups of people through different means. And it becomes a bureaucratic nightmare to get it done. But price caps and more regulation would actually have, I think, been a better solution. But central government didn't want to pursue that. So thank you for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Wark, you're online there.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me on. I'm not part of this committee, but I was chatting to actually Councillor Doyle on this yesterday. I think for myself, I'm very, very frustrated with this, basically in the last number of weeks, and I think I've got a couple of grey hairs on the side of my head this week over it. It's basically one of the companies named now. It's ruthless when you actually phone these companies and you're basically waiting up to 40 minutes, and then we one of the call handlers basically not very supportive of the elected rep, never mind customers. That's why they're coming to us, and more or less hanging up or just no help at all. I definitely think the motion's great to see it coming on, and it could be a lot harder in my eyes because there is a lot of people out there. I'm sure every elected member and the council have a lot of people contact them now over the £600 and they haven't received it. I know for a few cases the police have been involved, and I welcome the motion put forward today by Councillor Doyle because it's really starting to get so frustrating here. So it is, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mark. Councillor, have your amendment up? Your proposed seconder, Councillor Farrell? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, next speaker is Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I have no problem in supporting the proposal going forward here. And the amendment, I think it's a difficult issue for those at the minute who have had issues in around the £600 payment. And these energy supplier companies, there are some of them, have been named here today. And I have to say, my own company that I'm signed up with, I had to wait about an hour and 15 minutes before I got a customer services in relation to an issue that I had. Wasn't in around the 1600, it was another issue. But look, it is concerning when you have people having difficulties in getting their £600 to get these vouchers redeemed and get the money into their accounts, that when they phone the company, the energy supplier, that they're waiting hours, maybe an hour and a half, trying to get through to customer services, and then at the end of the day, still not getting sorted out. And I think that's backed up, Chair, by the regulator, and clearly the headlines was yesterday. The energy firm customer services fall well below the standard, and that was put out yesterday by the chief executive of the regulator, Kevin Shields. And he did say, and he does understand, and we all understand that there are many people trying to contact suppliers due to high energy prices and the energy bill support scheme. And as the regulator has said, this cannot be used as an excuse because of high demand on lines. And the regulator is also looking, investigating into the poor performance. Maybe that means a regulatory breach, and that would be another serious problem. But Chair, it is concerning, and I think the energy companies need to get their act together to get the final money that is owed to people, these £600 allocations, get it out and get it sorted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Jackson.
Chair, and I suppose just on behalf of Sinn Féin, we support the motion and we support the amendment. And I don't want to confuse things, but we do have a further amendment. We'll wait till this one's dealt with first. But it's no surprise that every single one of us is getting calls in relation to this. And we had a special meeting in December, highlighting our frustrations at the delays in getting this support out to people. So if we were frustrated in December, now it's now the end of March, and people still haven't received this payment. It's completely unacceptable. And the responses that we're getting from the energy companies around the extension for this money to be spent until the end of May, just not good enough. No, people needed this money in September last year. The end of May is far too late. So in that regard, we've been supporting constituents on this for months now, and we support the motion. In our engagement with the energy companies, quite a lot of times, and I know in the last couple of weeks, there's been I've been given information, given dates of the new letters that have been sent out to customers, and we've been informed by Royal Mail that it can take over 3 weeks for those letters to be delivered to those that need it. So I'm going to. Once this is voted on, I'm going to add an addition to this that we write the Royal Mail asking for these energy payments. The post service know what these letters look like. So we write the Royal Mail asking for these to be prioritised. It's no good for these letters, this much needed support, to be sitting in a frame in Great James's Street for 2-3 weeks awaiting to be delivered. So there needs to be, there's an onus on Royal Mail as well to prioritise the delivery of this much needed support. So I'll add that as an addition once we've voted on this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I'll bring you back in after I can get Councillor Tierney's amendment up. And just on, we'll get it up on screen again. I definitely, Councillor, I do fully agree with the motion and intent as well. And I've had a lot of people contact me in a rural area where people would have their house electricity bill connected to their farm bill. And thankfully, the British government has opened a scheme for them, but the farmers have to apply for it. And we'll see down the line how successful or unsuccessful that is. Okay, so we'll take Councillor Tierney's amendment first, seconded by Councillor Farr. I think everybody's in agreement. Yeah, we'll take that as passed. And we'll go to Councillor Jackson. Do you have a seconder for your amendment there? You have another one as well? Okay. I'll take yours, Councillor Farr. Have you a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Doyle.
Christopher, do you mind if I... Right, cheers. Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Christopher. And a lot of councillors use the word inundated a lot in this chamber. And when people say they're inundated about these vouchers, I believe them, because it is widespread across this city and district. And councillors have spoken about vouchers not going to the address, being posted to another address up in Skeg. They've spoken about their vouchers being redeemed by somebody else, and they go to the post office and they says, well, that was cashed in a Santander account on the 16th of February, and the person's like, I don't have a Santander account. You know, there's fraud going on here, and people have spoken about greedy landlords, shady landlords, demanding those vouchers, even though they don't pay the electricity bill. So I agree with all the proposals that are on the table and the proposal that's going to come. But my firm belief is at the end of this, when we speak to the energy companies, when we speak to the post office, there's still going to be people that are falling through the net, and there needs to be an appeals process. So this, although the energy companies here are delivering this on behalf of the government has a role here, and we don't have one here, but there's a British department that are overseeing the implementation of this scheme. and they need to establish an appeals process. So if somebody didn't get the voucher that they were entitled to for whatever reason, if it was sent to a different address, if it was stolen by somebody else, if somebody had impersonated them, there needs to be an appeals process, because people have waited ages for this, and some people haven't got it, and some people don't have any realistic means of getting it. I'm dealing with cases where the police are investigating fraud. They've been cashed in at a post office. The person hasn't been asked for ID, hasn't been asked for a key card. They just got 600 quid that was meant for somebody else. Are the police going to sort it out? Probably not. So what happens to that person that should get the 600 quid? There needs to be a process, an independent process where they can appeal against that. And I don't think that exists at the minute, but it should. It definitely should. So the amendment's up on the screen, and I'd appreciate it if everybody could support it.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. And I do agree, there needs to be a single point of contact rather than jumping hoops between different firms, and it's a bit ridiculous. Anyone want to speak on the amendment? Everyone happy? Yep. Everyone happy? Can we get Councillor Jackson's up on screen as well? I think it's in the chat box there. Mr. Jackson, you have a seconder for that, don't you? Did you tell me? Did you tell me? Yeah, okay. Okay, members, I've heard widespread agreement on this one as well. Yep, we'll take that. Just passed. Okay, members, this is substantive motion passed. Yep. Okay, members, I'm going to move on in Chair's business. The second person to contact me is Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. And this issue is in relation to birds, pigeons. And look, we're all aware of the issue and around the foil grouping that are under pressure about having sustainability in the future and a place to meet in. I've been contacted by the Maiden City pigeon group and around their issue, and I do believe that they have a facility at Templemore at the minute, and there are concerns around that. And what I'm just asking, Chair, is look, I believe that we need to bring these groups collectively together, the Maiden City ones along with the foil group, to see what we can do to facilitate them in the future. There are concerns about their facility at Templemore, and look, they're worried about a cost of £2,000 a year, somewhere around that there. But I'm just wondering, has Barry any update on it, or has Barry been made aware of it? Because I'd be asking, look, we need to talk to all these groups and around that have these pigeon racing groups and around that, just to see that they're all collectively trying to be looked after and helped. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Alderman Devaney. Through yourself, Chair. Yes, I am aware of this. We're involved, obviously, with the one at Daisyfield members, but this is something that has arisen. There's a unit at the back of Templemore that a pigeon club operate out of. Again, it's a long-standing agreement. There's not agreement in place, but it's a long-standing arrangement. Our property team, we're in doing an assessment of that existing unit, and it has been deemed not fit for purpose from a health and safety perspective. It needs disposed of. So officers have been discussing with club members and have highlighted the recent information coming our way from the lead legal service officer in terms of best value. So if we are to replace that unit, be it rental or purchasing one, we do need to get a valuation from Land and Property Services on that. And also, if we're putting that in place, we also need to look at ground rent. So that is something we're now bound by, that if a group wants to use any of our land to put their own premises or for us to provide premises for them, the valuation needs to go to Land and Property Services. So there are a number of different options. We're looking again, there's a unit, as members will be aware, that was proposed for the Daisy Field over at St Colum's Park, and if we can put that in place, but there is no other way around it for any group that wants to put premises or rent or lease premises in our land, we have to go to LPS, get a valuation, and whatever that is deemed, then that group will have to pay that annual licence fee. So those discussions are at an early stage. So officers were meeting the team, we're meeting the group this week again, as far as I'm aware, to see what their options were. They were talking about moving to Ballyarnett, but again, it's council land. It's going to be the exact same issue. So the discussions are ongoing, and we hope to meet up with them in the next couple of weeks again.
Alderman Devaney, do you want to come back in? Are you happy?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me back in, and thank Barry for that update. I know the foil pigeon group are I think, meeting on Monday, as far as unfortunately I can't make it. But is there any date to speak to the rest of the group, especially the Maiden City group that has spoken to himself? Has there been any discussions ongoing with them, or is there any meetings in the process been set up to have the discussions around the process?
Yeah, through yourself, Chair, there's been regular discussions with them. The stumbling block is the method that we're suggesting we have to take forward. They're saying they can't pay any money per annum. They can't afford any rent per annum. So that's where the discussions are at the minute. We are trying to ease that burden slightly by looking at the old unit that we proposed for the Daisy Field. That's at St Colum's Park. So that's the case, and the other one's been condemned. Then the club would be just left with a ground rent, an annual licence fee for actually operating out of there. So yeah, discussions have been ongoing, but unfortunately the group said they're not in a position to pay any rent on an annual basis.
No, thank you for that.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Tierney.
Thanks, Chair. I don't want to have or prolong the conversation, but I think part of what Alderman Devaney was suggesting was that we bring both of these groups together to try and resolve the issues. I can fully appreciate and understand why that seems like a good idea, because they're very similar in many ways, but I would just be slightly concerned that having two groups there with two potentially different asks might confuse the whole process and could set us back. I think from our point of view, there's a meeting on Monday with the Foil Pigeon Racing Club, which should go ahead, and officers should continue their engagement with the Maiden City Pigeon Club and try and resolve the issues independently, rather than bringing them together. That would be our view, because they are slightly, whilst they're similar, they're also slightly different. Where one is going to be or is going to look to remain on council land, and the other, we're still trying to work through the detail of where that will be. So I don't think it's a good idea to be lumping those two groups together to meet with councillors. I think they both deserve to have individual meetings to have their issues resolved to their satisfaction, and not feel that this is part of a negotiation between pigeon clubs. I don't think that's the right way to go about it.
Councillor Kearney, any further speakers on this issue? No. Okay, members, the last item of chairperson's business is Alderman Graham Mark.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me on. I'm not a member of Health and Communities Committee, but members, you're probably aware on Tuesday the 21st of March is World Down Syndrome Day. The theme of this year is With Us, Not For Us. This is a global awareness day that has been especially served by the United Nations. Can I encourage everyone in the district to get your family, friends, classmates, colleagues to join in? All you need to do is choose some socks that are going to be noticed. They may be mismatched socks, crazy ones, the most colourful socks, whatever takes your fancy. Members, you're obviously aware the charity last year, the Mayor's Charity, was for Down Syndrome Trust, and I know all the members and council got fully behind it, and we raised a lot of money and raised a lot of awareness. But members, time's ticking now for Tuesday, so I've contacted the chair and appreciate it for allowing me in. But I kind of asked somebody to obviously put a proposal through, and I'll just put on the chat box. I know I can't put this through. And it's more or less for the council buildings to be lit up yellow and purple for World Down Syndrome Day on Tuesday, the 21st of March 2023. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Mark. And I know I agreed to propose it for you, but you have Councillor Ferguson in there to propose, so I can second it for you, Councillor Mark. Any speakers on happy to support? Happy to support? Okay, yep, everyone's happy to support. Okay, Alderman Mark, that's it. Passed. I see no opposition at all to it, so thanks for bringing that. Very important issue and a very good cause, so thank you for bringing that to committee, Alderman Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Bye.
Okay, members, going to move on to item 7, which is the matters arising from the Open Minutes Health and Community Committee held on Thursday the 9th of February, pages 9 to 24 on your packs, if anyone has any matters arising. Okay, no matters arising, members. Moving on to item 8, which is Advice Services 2023-24, extension of funding to the 30th of June 2023, pages 25 to 28 in your packs. And Barry's taking this item.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose is to seek your approval to extend funding allocations to our current advice providers for additional 3 months up to the end of June, to seek your approval to extend the Tribunal's Appeals Programme, to seek your approval to extend the Welfare Reform Mitigations Extension Programme, and to seek your approval to make additional payments on behalf of DFC in respect to cost of living and salary payments. Members, you'll be aware of Council's approved 3 providers. At a recent advice panel on the 20th of February, members agreed to recommend to Council the extension of the current 3 providers for an additional 3 months. Members also agreed to recommend the small amounts of funding which have been recently approved by DFC to organisations funded through the Voluntary and Community Division and Community Empowerment Division can be paid by Council to the 3 providers. And this additional funding relates to payments of £1,500 towards helping to alleviate increases in running costs and assist in maintenance delivery of key services. In respect of salary payments, members, based on the number of qualifying staff, the 3 advice providers will be entitled to the following payments: Advice Northwest 35,616, Dove House 12,433, and the Resource Centre 3,374. In terms of the finance around it, members, you'll see in section 4.2, the money comes from rates, over 300,000, over 400,000 from DFC. There's been an additional 30,000 put in rates for tribunals. The Welfare Mitigations funding of £112,300 from DFC, and the additional salary costs of £51,423 also secured from DFC. So in terms of recommendations, members, that you approve the extension of funding allocations to our existing 3 providers for 3 months to the end of June 23, to approve the extension of the Tribunal's Appeals Programme, again for the 3 providers, that members approve the allocation of the Welfare Reform Mitigations Advice funding for an additional 3 months, and that members approve the Council make additional payments on behalf of DFC in respect of cost of living payments of £1,500 and salary payments as outlined within section 3.3 of the report. And the total of that is £51,423.40. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. For Speaker, Councillor Farr.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the reports. I declared an interest at the start that I sat in the advice panel, so I just want that to be known. First of all, I'd like to pay tribute to the 3 fantastic advice providers that we have across this city and district in Advice Northwest, Dove House and the Resource Centre. And I want to pay tribute to the fantastic work and the sterling work that they do for people right across this city and district, the support, the advice and the guidance that they have provided over the last year and the years to come. They help people on a daily basis, people that are struggling with the cost of living crisis, the inflationary crisis, and people that are trying to navigate a really, really complex benefit system. So I want to just say you do a fantastic job. I'll reluctantly propose this item. We should be in a position to say to the advice providers, this is the funding you have for the year. We're not in that position yet. We're rolling on last year's allocation for the first 3 months of the year. I wish we weren't in this position, but we are. So I'll propose the item. But in terms of the DFC funding, have we any idea of when that's actually going to be confirmed for the coming financial year?
Through yourself, Chair, yeah, hopefully 22nd of this month.
That's the next officer engagement, Councillor Farrell, to press for confirmation of our funding budget. We have a 2-year letter of offer, which is subject to departmental budget.
It's fairly happy with the response. Yeah, okay. Councillor Doyle, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and I'll reluctantly second this because I agree with what Councillor Farrell has said. We want to be able to offer annual certainty, but we can't at the moment. Just a quick question in terms of this allocations for the next 3 months up to June. The new council will then be in recess in August. So if this funding runs for 3 months, when does it then be set for August, September and October? Will it just roll on until another decision's made? Just so that I can get this clear in my mind, if we're funded from now until the end of June, council's off August, will it just be a matter of the Chief Executive just continuing that funding for the next month until we're back to approve it? Or whoever's back to approve it, sorry?
Through yourself, Chair, no, at the earliest opportunity after the election, and whenever we get back in, we'll be calling an advice panel. So there's a decision that'll need to be made, so I wouldn't like it running into recess. I would like a decision made in terms of how we're going to roll out the funding this year. It's a choice to continue with the existing allocations or to go back the other way. So we discussed that at the last advice panel. So that'll be a one item agenda, the first advice panel, to actually deal with that issue.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I would also like to pay tribute to our 3 advice providers. I think that the workers there do a fantastic job and have done right through the pandemic and right through the cost of living crisis. And we know that they've been overwhelmed. We also know that the people who work for these organisations are also struggling as a result of the cost of living crisis. And that can be exhausting when you're helping others with issues that you have yourself. So, I think that we want to give certainty to the organisations about future funding because that'll put their mind at rest. But we also need to make sure that we're not reducing their funding, and I think that that's also key. Obviously, Stormont is down right now, but if it ever is to come back, I think we have to insist that the funding for advice services is increased because we've looked at inflation this year and the money for advice services has more or less remained static, as we know, since 2015. And that means there's a huge gap now between what that money would have represented in 2015 and what it represents now. And how that plays out in terms of devaluing the paycheck that somebody's taking home, but also, the costs that advice organisations are faced with in terms of electricity, rent and everything else has went way up. So I think we have to strive towards making sure there's no cuts and that we protect advice services because we know the vital role that they play for people in Derry and right across our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I suppose we, first of all, on behalf of Sinn Féin, say that we support the recommendations that's in front of us. It's coming on the back of quite a bit of discussion at the advice panel. And I would concur with everything that's been said in relation to the role that our advice providers play in supporting people, particularly now during a cost of living crisis where there's an increasing number of families that are reaching out and seeking advice because they're struggling to meet household bills. So the advice providers have always played an integral role in the city and district, and they're coming under increasing pressure. There was, and Councillor Harkin alluded to it there, that there is a finite pot of funding that's available to provide support to the advice sector, and we should always be lobbying on their behalf to have that pot increased and provide adequate support. But that support needs to be reflective of the role that they're playing. So we don't want to be in a scenario where there's an advice provider that's providing and reaching out and growing and providing more support to citizens of this city and district, and their allocation of this pot of funding doesn't reflect that. So it needs to be fair, it needs to be equitable. And as a council, we should use whatever levers are available to us to lobby for additional support. But I think we need to have some. There needs to be some incentive for those organisations to be reaching out and growing their service and supporting more and more people, because at the minute, if we continue along this route and ignore a formula or ignore the numbers of the number of contacts that each of these advice providers are supporting people, then that incentive simply isn't there. So when this is reviewed again, we would encourage other members to acknowledge that and provide that incentive for advice providers to grow, and for the funding that they're receiving to be reflective of the number of people that they're supporting in the city and district. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair. And I have to say, reluctantly, we have to. Our party will be supporting the recommendation. And I just would like to put on record our thanks to the service providers out there, the three that have been mentioned here, doing steadfast work, especially over this last number of years through a very, very difficult, challenging time and around the COVID pandemic and stuff like that there. And I do believe, look, we have to look at a better structure to allow these services to know that they have financial support going forward, and look, and the growing demands and need for that advice within the council area keeps growing, so it does. But happy to support the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. I don't see any further indicated speakers. Remember, this is proposed by Councillor Farrell, seconded by Councillor Doyle, reluctantly supported by you all. No one's going against it. We'll take item 8 as passed. Members, item 9 is a Grant Aid Community Support Fund 2023-24 and Good Relations Fund 2023-24. And at the outset, I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Newton Stewart Community Forum. And Barry's going to take this item.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this is to seek your approval for the recommendations of the Community Support Fund Grant Aid Assessment Panel, subject to DFC approval of budgets for 23-24 financial year, and to seek your approval for the recommendations of the Good Relations Fund Assessment Panel, again subject to confirmation of funding from TEO. Members should be aware that the grant aid for community support and good relations is allocated to DEAs in line with community planning, and the financial allocations are based on a formula based on deprivation, population and rurality, and subject to match funding from DFC and TEO. Under the community support programme, constituted not-for-profit groups can apply for up to a maximum of £4,000 in a financial year, and the total budget within that programme is £214,500. Under the Good Relations programme, again, you can apply for core and project costs up to a maximum of £4,000. The budget is £150,000. There's £50,000 members within the Good Relations grant aid budget. It's also available for strategic youth programmes, and this was agreed by members in December last year as a new part of the new Good Relations strategy and action plan. So members, you'll see in sections 3.1 and 3.2 the number of applications in each of the programme and the amount of money that has been applied for in each of them. So in terms of the budget, 214,500 for community support, and Good Relations is 200,000. So in terms of recommendation that you approve the allocation of funding for both programmes, subject to the approval of budgets for the 23-24 financial year, and that members approve the allocation for the Good Relations set out in Appendix 2, subject to confirmation of funding from TAO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Cheney.
Thank you, Chair. Pardon me. Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Barry for the report and all of the team for the work that has gone on it. I think if you look through the report and then you look through the breakdown per DA, you see the amount of good community work that's going on from one end of this district to the other. It'll be no surprise, I suppose, to Barry to say that I'm slightly disappointed in the Ballyarnett one. We have 9 groups that are above the threshold that are not going to receive any funding because our allocation has run out. That we need to have a look at that. That this isn't the first time that's happened, and it's not. We're not the only DEA that it happens in, but there are so many groups across this district, particularly in my own DEA, who are doing fantastic work, trying to reach out and engage with people from all ages across our community, and we just don't have enough money to support them through this program. And groups are going to become frustrated at that, because I'm looking at trying to put me off. I'm looking at the Ballyarnett one, for example, and some of those groups that are above the threshold but not getting funded are some similar groups that were above the threshold last year and didn't get funded as well the last time out, and that's going to put people off applying to this fund. So I'm happy to propose the recommendations, but my question is, how can we make this, I don't even want to use the word fair, but how can we make this money stretch, basically, is what I'm asking, or how can we invest more in these areas, and how can we make sure that when groups do meet the threshold or well above it, like there's one of the groups there in Chantallo, the Chantallo men's group, 86% scored. There's some other groups, there's one there, 73. It's getting funded in a different DA, but we're getting 86 in our DA and we're not getting funded. And I understand the way we do it per DA. But if you're looking at that from the outside, you're saying, well, that's not fair, because going by the percentage, the application from the Chantallo men's group was scored better than one by a number of groups in the Derry DA, which got lower but are getting funded. To the Chantallo men's group, that doesn't seem and doesn't come across as a fair process. So I want to know how we can address that, how we can try to get more money into this pot, and how we can make sure that any group that is getting over the 60% is getting funding. Thank you.
Through yourself, Chair, I think there's 2 questions there, Brian. I'll answer I suppose going back to the inception list and spreading it out in the DEA, particularly in the rural area, there's a lack of capacity, full-time workers, so they don't have the same resource to submit applications. So it's about a fair allocation, and obviously in the urban area, there's more full-time workers who can apply. So we would normally expect the applications to score higher. In terms of the way the process is now, Brian, the only way that we can address this is at least double the budget in each of the programmes, which we know in the current environment is highly unlikely going to happen. But we have met with colleagues in neighbourhood renewal recently and the rural chairs in each of the DAs around general stuff, but grant aid being one of them. And if members would recall, pre-COVID, we did look at a couple of pilots around consensual grant aid making. So look, after the election, members, we will bring a number of papers in terms of how we can probably stretch this money a bit better. So in each of the DAs, through the local growth partnerships and lead partners in that area, there may be an opportunity to pool all of the resources together, get everyone around the table, reduce duplication, people's not competing against each other. So, look, I don't have all of the detail. The team are meeting the colleagues in the C&V sector around us as we speak, and after the election, we'd bring a number of detailed reports how we would see this, because there is a good pot of money if you add all of it in, PCSP budget, venues fund and all of that. So there may be an opportunity, but it'll require a bit of work, and we'll bring that back in subsequently after the election if members are content with that.
Councillor Cheney. Thanks for that, Barry, and hopefully I look forward to that report coming. But I do take your point around the rural, and that has been, I suppose, a historic problem from this council was set up. We have seen rural applications from here to good relations to PCSP, that there is a capacity issue there, and I accept that. So I no issue there. But what I will point out is the Chantal and Men's group get 86. The highest score in Waterside is 76. It's a difference of 10%. And right down as far as 68 in Waterside, they're getting funded or partly funded. And I don't want, this isn't lumping group against group, it's just for an example. But right down to 68, they're getting as much as partly funded. I don't think in Ballyarnett there's a group that got 68. They're all above it, but they're not getting a penny. To them groups, that doesn't look fair. And to them groups, that's some of their neighbouring groups. If you compare Ballyarnett and Waterside, that's some of their neighbouring groups. Just, I think there needs to be a look at how we do this and how we process it. But thanks, anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Duffy.
Good Chair. Just for as a declaration, I'm employed by Greater Chantal Community Arts in the Asylum that mentioned there on the report. Just on the report, Sinn Féin are happy to welcome it, and if it needs a second, I'm happy to do that as well. So myself, coming from the community sector, I know how important these small pockets might seem as significant to some people, but £4,000 can run a project, but can impact a lot of people. All the projects there mentioned are all vital and fantastic projects, and I'm sure that they are going to meet the needs of a lot of people. Just coming from a rural perspective as the Fáin councillor for Sinn Féin, I see there the EasyLink community transport based in Fáin is to receive one of the grants also. This is welcome news, given the uncertainty of DFI's recent announcement that the community transport after April is not secured and there's no budget agreed for it. I know there was one lady in particular who lives down in Eglinton has contacted me, and she's very, very concerned that this is going to be taken away taken away from her after April. And she's distraught about the whole thing because that is her lifeline. This is how she gets into the town to do her shopping and gets to other places. So just for that the wee lady, it was awful to hear that. So I'm going to ask that with members' approval that this committee write to the DFI and requesting an urgent meeting. And we will be asking them to not cut community transport because it is such a vital service, especially for the rural people within our communities. Thank you.
Mr. Duffy, unfortunately, I'm not going to accept the proposal. Alderman Guy contacted me this week to bring a similar proposal. I'm aware that there's a proposal and a motion tabled to full council, and it can't be acted upon to council only. So I'm going to leave the discussion until full council, if that's okay. Yeah, I think there's two motions on the same issue actually currently submitted, but yeah, thanks for that. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair. And look, when we look, I have no problem in supporting the recommendation, and well done to those who receive money, but there is a concern for many out there who won't receive money. It's good to hear that rural issue, you know, and around the capacity and around the rural area is, we understand it now that there is a lack of capacity out there, and it's how we build that capacity to allow those rural groups to get up. And I do share Councillor Tierney's frustration when you look at some DEAs, they're in the 80s and they don't get funding, and you look at other DEAs, you're down in the 70s and they do get funding. It is a frustration. But look, we have to move on. But happy to support the recommendation here and around these. And I do share the previous speaker's concerns and around that issue about EasyLink and around there. I'm not going to go into detail. It is a worrying issue once again for rural dwellers. Chair, look, there one last thing just I want to ask, maybe on the back of this, is in relation, maybe it can't be taken, is just the community venue fund. When would that be coming forward? Because I would expect that to be probably at today's meeting. But thanks, Chair.
Just with regards to the venue fund, members will be aware there's a working group and a decision has been deferred, so there's no paper until the working group have a decision, and we'll bring something subsequently into council after the election.
Alderman Devaney, you happy with that?
Yep, thanks for the update.
Yep. No problem. Okay, members, no further indicated speakers. Item 9 is proposed by Councillor Tierney, seconded by Councillor Duffy. I've heard no one go against, so I take that as passed. Members, item 10, I'm also going to declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of our GAA. It is the support for Sport Grant Aid Programme, pages 53 to 58 in your pack, and Barry's taking this item.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose is to update you on the decision, the support for sport selection panel, and to seek approval for the same. You'll be aware, members, that groups can apply for a minimum of 500 up to a maximum of £2,000 per application. And all applicants, again, like other programmes, required to achieve a score of 60% or more. We received a total of 52 applications, members. 2 were deemed void. So 50 were eligible to apply. 41 received a score of 60% or over. The assessment panel's recommendations were presented to the Sports Committee for approval on the 24th of February. The existing budget does not cater for all those clubs who scored 60 and above. Therefore, in order to fund all applicants who scored 60 and above, the Sports Committee agreed to top slice all awards by 17%. So members, you'll be aware we have a budget of £60,000 and a sum of £60,653 has been allocated. Anticipated underspends will bring the programme within budget, so we will find that £653, members. So the recommendation is that you endorse decisions of the assessment team and the Sports Committee toward the support for sports grants to those applicants who scored above 60%. Thank you, Chair.
Members, anyone want to comment on this?
Happy to propose it, Chair. It's good to see the money getting out there to the organisations that are doing a lot of good work across this district. Just when you look down the list, you can see that this money will be spent from one end to the other within this district. But again, unfortunately, there's just not enough money there. and we could be looking at more, but I understand that it's a very difficult process and where we're at. But for what we are putting out, I think it'll go to good use, and hopefully the people that use it appreciate the work that goes on to get these through. So I'm happy to propose it.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor McGinley.
Good chair, and like Councillor Tierney there, on behalf of Sinn Féin, we're content they second the recommendations to get this money out to the groups. We know that it's vital in their development of their own projects and everything else. I would query, in terms of council's responsibility for this. Has there been any contact with the likes of Sport NI in terms of this funding? I know that a lot of it's coming out of our council reserves and that. So just a query, it would be Sport NI, I would say, as the relevant body that would be responsible for promoting sports development across the north as opposed to just across the district. And I wonder, has there been any conversations? One wee question I just have, on the previous report, it indicated, the amount that was applied for from each group and then the amount that was awarded. This report is different. I'm aware of one application where they had applied for the full amount, and they've been part awarded. They scored 61. Foyle Bells, they scored 61 and were awarded £830. However, Bonds Glen CC were scored 60 and awarded £1,079. So I'm just wondering what the criteria or the algorithm is it's used in terms of the decision as to how much is awarded. So it's just a wee question on that, those two wee questions. But as I say, we're content to second the recommendations for Megan.
Yeah, thanks. Through yourself, Chair. In terms of the answers, the first question is, yeah, there's been regular engagement with Sport NI around this. Members will be aware that we did have £90,000 since the formation of this council that went to our support for sport grant aid. Sometimes that rose to 110,000 with underspends, but a number of years ago, Sport NI cut that budget through financial pressures. So there's no indication of them of giving those amount of monies back to local authorities. So you're correct, that's left to our sport and grant aid is then the money we had allocated within rates estimates. So there was a huge expectation built up for many years with support for sport, and our maintenance fund with, probably £150,000, we're now reduced to £60,000 plus underspend. So yeah, we have discussed regularly with Sport NI, but there's no hope on the horizon, I think, in the current year or next year for additional monies. With regards to the query, I don't have the specifics around assessments. I don't get involved in terms of the specifics, but in terms of the formula, it would, if you scored above 60%, and if they've top sliced it, you'd be getting a percentage of what you've asked for. So you might have somebody that gets less money, but have scored more, but it all comes down to what the group have actually asked for and what's deemed eligible by the assessment panel. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. McGinley, happy with the response?
Thanks for that, Barry. No, the question was, it's just I know someone that's in the Foyle Bells, and I think that they had actually applied for the full amount. So that's where the query came from. But if it's down to an assessment panel, then that's fair enough. But as I say, we're happy to second. So thanks for those responses, Barry.
Through yourself, Chair, Councillor McGinley, without knowing the specifics of the application, can make an assumption that there may be ineligible items that were asked for, and that's the assessment panel deem what's eligible based on our criteria. So it could have been something around that.
No bother. Thank you, Barry.
Members of no further indicated speakers is proposed by Councillor Tierney. Ms. McGinley, do you second the item? Did you second?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Second by Councillor McGinley. I've heard no one go against. Okay, we'll take item 10 as passed. Members, item 11 is the pitch maintenance programme, pages 59 and 60 of your pack. Also declare a non-pecuniary interest. Is there any GAA? And Barry's taking this item.
Thanks, Chair. Members, just to seek your approval to roll out a pitch maintenance programme for sports clubs in 23-24. Members, you'll remember as far back as 2018, we have rolled this programme out and got approval through the Sports Committee, and this is for clubs that own their own ground and maintain their own facilities. All applicants are required to complete an eligibility checklist. including the ability to demonstrate proof of ownership. So members, clubs can apply for up to a maximum of £2,000 to assist with the maintenance of their playing facilities. We have allocated for this financial year a budget of £60,000. This has been held as a once-off in reserves. There is no recurrent budget allocated to the club maintenance grant aid programme. To continue the maintenance grant aid programme beyond 23-24 will be an additional rates ask. So in terms of recommendation, that you approve the delivery of the 23-24 club maintenance grant aid programme. Chair.
Councillor Boyle, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Just happy to approve the budget. And as Barry outlined, clubs that are eligible up to a maximum of £2,000 to assist with maintenance of their play pitches is very much welcomed, and it's great to see this being rolled out again. I do know, and I'm speaking and declaring interest on behalf of my own club, Sigerson's GA, who've done a lot of work to the ground in terms of tarring, and they raise much needed funds for that. So the likes of that group in terms of maintenance, that for that club, for this type of funding for maintenance to their grounds is is very welcome. During COVID and that we're just coming out of, I suppose, a difficult time for sports clubs, where they weren't able to do fundraising or ticket selling and all that comes with that. So any financial support in terms of assisting them with their pitches and playing fields is very welcome. So Sinn Féin's happy to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle, and I do approve. It's an issue that was raised to myself. There was a strong rumour going around that this funding was being withdrawn. I think it created a lot of angst amongst our local clubs that are heavily reliant on it now. So it definitely is welcome news, especially for the wider Strabane area. Councillor Farrell, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. Happy to second the proposal on behalf of the SLP. I think it shows that we're investing in communities, we're investing in clubs, and although the funding pot is small, it's going to make a massive difference to clubs right across the city and district. But I've just got one question. When do we expect this to roll out?
Through yourself, Chair, once full council approval, we'll get on it as soon as possible. We've done it before, so there's not a whole pile. It just has to go through ads and all of that. But we criteria and everything set up, so that's something we can get working on straight away after full council approval.
Is that the same for item 10 and 9? Sorry to go back on them, but item 10, the sport grant aid, when will that be paid out to clubs as well?
Well, whenever they start to incur expenditure, so in the new financial year, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to thank the officer team as well for bringing item 11 forward as well. I know there was a lot of work going into it. Members, item 11 is proposed by Councillor Boyle, seconded by Councillor Farrer. I hear no one go against, so we're going to take that as passed. Members, item 12 is a tender to provide support to refugees and asylum seekers in Derry City and Strabane District Council area, pages 61 and 62. And Barry, you're taking this again.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose is to seek your approval to proceed with the procurement exercise, to appoint an organisation to deliver a support service to assist the integration of and support asylum seekers and refugees who reside in the council area. The provision of accommodation for asylum seekers members is responsibility of the Home Office and managed locally through contract with mayors. Asylum seekers, as you know, have historically been accommodated within the Belfast City Council boundary. However, Derry City and Strabane is now one of the dispersal areas outside of Belfast. The Home Office have confirmed they will make funding available for councils to provide support mechanisms which will assist the integration of our new residents within the city and district. Members will be aware that a small amount of funding had been made available for this financial year, which was to be committed and spent by March 23. Following member approval, a terms of reference was issued in order to engage an organisation to develop an action plan in anticipation of further funding for 23-24. Unfortunately, no tenders were received by the closing date for this piece of work. Following a meeting with TEO, officers have been informed that the funding for 22-23 can now be accrued and combined with the secured funding for 23-24 to provide support for refugees and asylum seekers across the district. a total allocation of £55,000 is expected to be provided to the council by early March 23, where we currently have a letter of offer members that we're looking over in terms of the terms and conditions in it. So it's proposed that council, subject to receipt of a letter of offer from TEO, issue a tender to procure a competent service provider to deliver support service to assist with the integration of and support the asylum seekers and refugees who reside in the council area. So the executive office members have indicated the budget of 55,000. So the recommendation is you approve the issue of a tender process to deliver a support service to assist the integration of and support to asylum seekers and refugees who reside in the council area, subject to we'll sign the letter of offer with TEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone want to comment on this issue or this paper? Councillor Boyle?
Yeah, no, just happy to approve the tender process. Obviously, as previous, you know, at 55,000, it's a lot of money, but obviously, hopefully, it'll go in the right area for the right support to address the issues that comes with asylum seekers and refugees who come here to reside in our area. There is a lot of issues out there in terms of getting support and getting housing accommodation and getting medical treatment when they come here to seek refuge. So hopefully that this will go in some way to support all of those who come here to live and work and provide much needed shelter and support for them. So we're happy to approve the tender process, and £55,000 I know is a lot of money, but unfortunately I suppose a lot of that will go probably on admin. I'm not sure on in terms of getting someone to support and someone placed to support that role. So, but nevertheless, it's very much welcomed, and hopefully in the city and the district that those seeking asylum here will get the support that they now need with this in place. So, thank you.
Okay, Michaela, you're proposing, right? Did you say you're proposing? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Harkin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, I think that, as we've said before, it's very important that the council do all it can to welcome asylum seekers and make sure that they get the support that they need here, because it strengthens Derry, it strengthens our district when it's a more diverse place and where we welcome people in. And, you know, in recent months, it's been clear to me that there, even within our own city and district, there's been people who are making things up about asylum seekers in order to try and whip up hatred. And you see a lot of this stuff online. I think what Gary Lineker did was absolutely fantastic, standing up and calling out the policies, the racist policies of the Tory government. And it was great to see him standing his ground and getting so much support from co-workers and others. I would also urge people, if they haven't already watched it, but TG4 did a fantastic documentary about some of the protests that we've seen in the south, directed at asylum seekers, and by Kevin McGee. Thought it was an excellent piece of journalism, and I think it gives you an insight into the nonsense that and lies that some of these organisations and individuals are coming up with. But what's also useful is the environment and the impact on people of colour that live in our island. And it doesn't matter if these people are migrants here or were born here and their families have been here for generations, and they speak Irish and they have Irish accents and Dublin accents. For some people now, there's a bit of they're far more bold in terms of the way they're interacting with people they perceive to be from somewhere else. And I think we as a council have a duty to make sure that that sort of hatred and nonsense doesn't get an opportunity to spread here in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Farr? Okay. Councillor Sinai Barr?
Chair, and can I just welcome that progress that we have received from the Executive Office And may I also declare an interest, because in my day job, I work with asylum seekers and refugees. And I just wanted to ask a question, because it's a welcome development to get funding to support people seeking international protection in our city and district. But we do know that particularly those seeking asylum are not allowed to access public funds. So I wonder how much of this money will directly support those who are in hardship. Because when we see those who are seeking asylum within our city, most of the issues that we are dealing with are very practical. Now, many of them live in hotels, but those who live in their own residential home would require things like extra food packages, because the money they are given at the moment, we all know it's about £42 per person per week. That's what they're expected to spend. And every single one of us is impacted by the rising cost of living crisis. So they will be impacted the same, and they are living in dire hardship within our city and district. And I just wonder if this funding is going to go to individual organization, who is going to tender for admin purposes, but we miss the opportunity of supporting individuals and ensuring that the funding that has been allocated for them will not actually support them. They won't benefit as much as they are needed. I also wonder if we are looking at challenges such as mental health issues they are experiencing, and if we have enough trauma-informed services within our city that they can access, because those are the needs of these people coming to live with us around here. So it will be interesting to know what kind of services are going to be provided and how they will directly benefit, because it's well and good to get them into programs, but are these programs going to be of benefit to them in future? For example, training, are they just OCN training with no certificates to show in future when they get their residential permits to live within us? They will have to go back to university to study, or is it going to be of a tangible benefit? And that's the only questions I have. In terms of the challenges that they are facing, they are very clear. We've seen how the far-right movement is gathering momentum, even within our own city here. And there's a lot of work that is being done within the community to challenge that. And what else can we do? Because we do know there's much that we can do, but proactive challenging those far-right movements that are starting within our community. We have seen right now what the Tory government is doing with the new immigration bill, which they are calling illegal immigrants. These people are not illegal immigrants. They are people seeking protection within our own country and within our city and district. I'm delighted that our city has welcomed many of them, but which we can be more proactive in challenging such policies whenever they are proposed by the Tory government. So in terms of this, the funding that is being received, I would really want to see it going directly supporting those people with the really challenges that they're having, rather than organization getting them for their admin purposes. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Lillian, Barry, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, through yourself, Chair. Councillor Sinaway, I'm not in a position to answer those questions in terms of the tender. The money that TAO are providing, council are like a conduit for that money. TAO and the Home Office have responsibility, and council, we're playing a role here through our community development team to procure a provider to do this. So not until we get the actual tenders in and a successful bidder is appointed will we know what the programmes and what the money is actually going to be spent on. And we do have some concerns with a letter of offer from TAO. Just we've relayed those concerns. They're nearly saying it's council's responsibility, but we're saying it's clearly we're the conduit here to appoint a local provider and use our local knowledge and and go through our own structures and procedures to appoint a service provider. So we won't be able to answer those questions until we've actually somebody appointed for that amount of money.
Thank you, Barry. Lillian, are you okay with that?
Can I come back in, Chair, please?
Go ahead. Yep, Lillian, go ahead.
I think if the council does have the privilege of designing a program and for procurement purposes, then guidelines can be provided by council to ensure that the support provided by whoever tenders for this money will be directly beneficial to people who are targeted. And it may not, it may be wise to actually consult with them because they are all within our city. They are very, very accessible, and consult with them on what kind of support do they need, what kind of programs do they need to be put in place so that they can actively participate on them. So I would ask probably council consult with those people seeking asylum within our city and district because they're very accessible before this procurement or before calling for any tenders to make sure they can design a program that we can directly benefit.
Yep, Councillor Sina Bayer, officers confirmed that engagement will go into the criteria. If you're happy with that.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lina. Okay, members, item 12, I don't think I have any further speakers on it. It's proposed by Councillor Michaela Boyle, seconded by Councillor Doyle. And I've heard widespread support for it. Won't take it as passed. Okay, members, item 13 is affordable warmth scheme update, and Seamus is taking this item.
Chair, the purpose of the report is to update members on the proposed changes to the number of referrals that can be made to the affordable warmth scheme next year, 23-24. And this scheme, as members will be aware, is DFC's flagship fuel poverty project. Members, you'll also be aware that councils have been delivering the affordable warmth scheme since 2014 on behalf of DFC, and it's been well received within this council area. However, council has received correspondence from the department outlining budget uncertainty for the incoming financial year. Based on the predicted number of referrals which council can make to the housing executive, there may be a fund deficit, which is outlined in the report. However, the current fund model has been reviewed by the Department of Finance, and any further updates will be brought back to this committee for consideration. Chair, to recommend that members note the content of the report and resolve to sign the interim SLA, which is attached in the committee papers, with DFC for next year.
Thank you, Seamus. Councillor Farr.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Seamus, for the report. I'll propose it. I'm not happy with it. I think, we've had this discussion before where DFC say we want you to do 30 referrals a month, and then they change it and they say we want you to do less. And, we're still in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Fuel and just heating somebody's home has got so much more expensive. And instead of investing in the affordable warmth scheme to make homes more energy efficient, they're taking money away, which sort of, I would question the rationale behind that. So that's a decision for DFC. They need to be able to stand over it. We will deliver what we can. That's our job, to sort of process these referrals. But the demand across this city and district is strong. We could process 30 referrals a month, possibly more, but we're not being given the tools to do it. So at the end of the day, DFC, the money to make this scheme a success, there's demand out there, and given the financial pressures on houses, they should be meeting that demand to make homes more energy efficient. They're not, but that's a question they need to answer, but reluctantly propose the item.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. Councillor Boyle.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll second that. But likewise, like Councillor Farrell, it's disappointing. I suppose at the outset, the Affordable Warmth Home Scheme has been a victim of its own success, even prior to us finding ourselves in the cost of living. There's a climate crisis out there, and people do want to reduce the carbon footprint, even within their own home, by getting insulation and new types of systems within their home, and they want to be more energy efficient within their homes. Unfortunately, this is one of the, as elected reps in here will know, this is one of the single biggest issues that we get challenged on as elected members, and we get asked on what you know, affordable warmth scheme. I've tried to get into the system, and we're on a waiting list, and we've heard nothing back, and when's it going to be rolled out, and is there more money going to come down the road, and all of that. Unfortunately, as others have said on here before, we need Stormont up and running to address the cost of living and to address the climate crisis as well, and the cost of people having to heat their home. It is unfortunate that there is a reduction in the referrals now coming forward. And I want to put on record my thanks to our council officials that work within the Affordable Home Scheme. They've done a fantastic job. They've been very patient with constituents who are, I suppose, frustrated, waiting on the callback or whatever, or waiting on their homes to be insulated. And but as I said, Chair, you know, there's others. This isn't just a DF. In my own opinion, I don't see this as a DFC issue. This is a wider issue. And we have to address it. As I said, I talk about the climate crisis that we're facing into. The Executive Office and government at Stormont need to address this. It should be a priority, as you know, if we ever get it up and running, if the DUP agree to go back in. So I would like to think that this issue is a wider one than what we're discussing here now in terms of the affordable warmth home, that the climate crisis will be addressed, that people will be able to heat their homes in whatever way they can in terms of efficiencies. I think here we are behind the times when it comes to energy efficiency. You know, you just look across in GB where now they're taking gas out of people's homes and putting other forms of electric heating into homes. And here we are in our area, in Derry and Strabane. People think gas is the be-all and end-all of it all. It's not. And we have to look at other ways of diversifying and supporting people who want to make their homes more energy efficient and more and warm. The global crisis is hitting us in terms of the climate change, and we need to be addressing that at every level. So as I say, this cuts across all departments, in my opinion, within the Executive Office and within Stormont. So the sooner they get back to work and the DUP get back in there and our MLAs and our ministers can get around the table to address this, the better for everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle, Councillor Harkin.
Chair, and thanks to the council officers and council officials as well for you know, spending a lot of time in this. And it is disappointing news that the funding is reduced, and increasing energy efficiency is absolutely key to addressing and reacting to the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis. And the fact is, we're going in the opposite direction by reducing the budget for this, given that there is so much need for it and interest and desire for it and eagerness to see it expanded here in the district. So it is extremely disappointing. And look, we as a council voted on a climate pledge, and calling for urgent action. And there should have been there should be across the north and right across this island urgent action taken around home efficiency, and that should be central to every department's mind, because it is a cross-cutting issue. But that's not happened, and it doesn't surprise me. If Stormont came back tomorrow, I would have very little confidence that there would be urgent action to fix homes and make that a priority. It's not just Stormont, this Stormont department that is going backwards. I mean, the Tories are using the cost of living crisis to invest more in fossil fuels. Big energy companies are justifying now expanding investment in extraction of fossil fuels. So it just seems right across the board, whether it's the Tories, whether it's Stormont, whether it's big energy companies, they're going back on all the commitments and promises that were made. There's large numbers of people in the street, and it seems to me that the only thing that will change the thinking in Stormont among the experts and will force back these energy companies is when people go back out on the streets, whether it is the climate issue or cost of living, or if we combine both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. No further indicated speakers, members. Item 13 is proposed, Councillor Farrell, seconded by Councillor Boyle. Take that as passed. Item 14 is the Environmental Offences Fixed Penalties Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Regulations, Northern Ireland 2022. And Seamus, you're taking this item.
Chair, the purpose of the report is to inform members of amendments to the Environmental Offences Regulations, which enables Council to increase certain fixed penalties for littering and dog fouling offences. Members, currently the penalty for dog fouling is £80 under the Council's current dog control order. However, councils can increase the fixed penalty to a maximum level of £200 under the amended regulations. Although the number of fixed penalty notices issued remain low, the dog control work plan includes education awareness initiatives, and currently the number of complaints are reducing. Chair, committee members are asked to consider officers' recommendation that the fixed penalty for fouling is increased from £80 to £100 to act as a further deterrent.
Thank you, Seamus. Yep, Councillor Harkin, go ahead.
Yeah, look, dog fouling is a very, very, very serious issue, and we have discussed this in the chamber, and we organised a campaign, and we had wardens out there doing their best to discourage it, and we made some progress. And I think that we've raised awareness of the issue. I think for a lot of people there's many more people who are conscientious about it, and that is demonstrated in the fact that in different areas people want more bins for to put their doggy fowl bags, and that is a good thing. I'm not convinced that raising the penalty by £20 is going to have a dramatic impact on changing this, so I would actually oppose that. I think £80 for a lot of people right now is a lot of money in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And £80, it seems to me, would be, I think if if that happened to you, I think it would be very discouraging. But like, we're going to have to continue with the education campaign, it seems to me, to win this argument. It is, dog fowl it's dangerous for children, as we know, but it's disgusting, and it's something people are outraged when they see it in public spaces or in community areas. I'm not convinced raising the penalty by £20 is going to make that big of a difference. I think we have to find ways again to ratchet up the awareness and the education campaign around this, like we have in the past. I think that raising the fine is an easy option that won't act as the deterrent that we want.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Seamus, can I just ask you before we go on to the next? See, I've never obviously had a penalty notice for dog film. Do they get a discount if they pay early, like parking fines, or do they have to pay the full amount?
Currently, the discount is £50 if it's paid within a short time.
Down to 50?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Seamus. Councillor Boyle, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, I welcome the increase. I think that, and I want to put on record, there are far more responsible dog owners than they are irresponsible dog owners. So they are, you know, and thankfully the message seems to be getting out there, but dog fouling is still, again, one of the single biggest issues. We're already out canvassing, and the first door I knocked in Strabane, that was the issue. I want to commend again Council for the dog fouling bins and for the work that the dog wardens do. It's very difficult to get people to report, and I don't know how we're going to get around that one. People will contact me to report, but they're not willing to, if they're witness, to come forward themselves. They'll go through myself and I'll report it to the dog warden, to Council. So it is difficult. People, there seems to be a notion out there as well that I've come across that people seem to think if their dog fouls on grass, it's okay, but not the pavement. And that, you know, there is, we have to, there's a long way to go still, in my opinion, to educate people. Some people think it's not cool to lift up after their dog. I remember in the old Strabane District Council, Karen, you'll remember Malcolm Scott, and I used to have Malcolm tortured about this issue, and you know, that's a long time ago, and sadly we're still dealing with the issue in terms of offences. As Councillor Harkin outlined, we all know the issues around the what dog fouling does, particularly to young children. Schools, on roads, people pushing buggies, children going into schools, dog dirt on their shoes, and you know, for some reason, there is, as you know, we should have a zero tolerance, and I know we do, but I think we do need to go a wee bit further. And I appreciate that our people within Council have done a lot to address this issue. There's still a lot more can be done. We do operate a zero tolerance, but I think we need to go further. I do welcome the increase. And I hope, and like Councillor Harkin said, nobody can afford fines of any amount these days, but you know, if a irresponsible owner of a dog is out there and allows their dog to foul on a street, in a park, in a play area or on grass, then they should be held responsible for that. I just want to also because we're talking about this issue, Chair, if you allow me to comment on the deplorable incident that happened here in the city last night in Ballyarnett that has been reported widely in the news today, of a poor dog met its death. I don't know if they were the owners or who was responsible, who the irresponsible people were, but I do hope they're caught, and I do hope that they're dealt with by the rigours of the law for that. The poor dog met an awful death, and I just want to put on record our support to the people who were dealing with that yesterday evening. You know, they have my support for that and on our parties, because it's not very nice when you see a dog lying in distress. But apparently a dog that was in such distress that it had to be immediately put down. So it's horrendous what happened yesterday. And as I say, I hope they're caught and face the full rigours of the courts and the law for what they done. But as I say, there's a lot to be done, a lot of education. And I have to say, a lot of our young people are very good at encouraging family members to clean up after their dogs. I remember we had the 3 R's, reuse, reuse and recycle, and it was through our school children that encouraged families to get involved in recycling. And, you know, I think if there's any initiative we could do through our schools, and I know that we've probably tried them, Seamus, before, but children are very good at obeying orders like that, you know, and, you know, I think if it's something we could do to highlight, you know, through the schools and other methods, then surely we should be trying it. We'll never eradicate it. You know, it'll always be a problem, but it's an irresponsible individual problem as opposed to, you know, a wider problem. And as I said, there is far more responsible dog owners than they are irresponsible within our district, but it's still an issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michaela. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Boyle's sentiments around what happened in Ballyarnett yesterday. That's an area used by many families, many young families, and what went on there was totally shocking. And I agree with her. I hope the people that were involved are caught and are dealt with appropriately, because it's not, as a public representative for that area, it's not the image of the country park that we want to be going out. The country park's a lovely area, and lots of people have great fun there. But what happened yesterday was totally appalling. In relation to the report before us, do we put the fine up or do we not? I suppose, you know, Councillor Harkin made the point around people are already in a very difficult position through the cost of living crisis. £80 is a lot of money for some people. During my time as mayor, I was in every DA across this council trying to promote responsible dog ownership. And I agree with Councillor Boyle. There are more responsible dog owners out there than there are irresponsible dog owners out there. And in my experience, what I've found is the people who get most annoyed at dog filing are responsible dog owners, because they're getting lumped in and almost feeling as if they're getting the blame as well. And they're really, really annoyed about it. I was asked by a local business in Ballyarnett to put a post up because there was a number of people passing by their front door on a daily basis and allowing their dog to foul and just walking on. And I'm not exaggerating, I must have been given every street in Derry that there was dog fouling on. And it's an issue that happens right across this city and further afield. And it's one where I agree with Councillor Harkin. The only way to tackle it, in my opinion, is by education. Pardon me. Do we put the fine up from £80 or to £100? You could put it up to £1 million. If we're not giving out the tickets, if we don't see the people, doesn't matter what it is. It's not currently acting as a deterrent, in my opinion. And if we're, you know, there is no benefit, because the dog warden has to be there to see the person, because as Councillor Boyle said, people won't phone in and report it. They won't stand and take a photograph of an owner and its dog fouling and walking away. They just won't do it. They will expect someone else to do it, but they won't do it themselves. So I fully understand what Councillor Harkin saying around the cost of living crisis and whether we do or whether we don't put this fine up. But in reality, we're not giving out the tickets. So it doesn't really matter what it is if we're only expecting it to act as a deterrent. And currently, it's not acting as a deterrent. People who are responsible dog owners, in my opinion, aren't lifting up the foul in fear of an £80 fine. They're doing it because they're responsible dog owners. People who are allowing their dog to foul aren't doing it because they're irresponsible. So whether they're going to get fined £80 or £100, they're still going to allow their dog to foul. And we only have 2 dog wardens across this district. The chances of them being in the right place at the right time to catch someone are very, very slim. if we're going to be honest. So what we should be focusing on, in my opinion, is increasing the educational piece around this. I know that we have done an awful lot of work, and I've literally spent days with the dog wardens. They do a really good job. They try their best, but unfortunately, they can't be down the quay and then over in St. Colum's Park at the same time, and Castle Derrick and Strabane. You know, they just can't be everywhere. So if we're not, we're having a conversation here and we're being asked about this fine, whether we're going to put it up or not. People want to put it up, that's fine. It's not going to work because it's not going to be giving out tickets. If you look at parking tickets, for example, and I know you're comparing apples and oranges, but you look at the many redcoats that's in this city, you would hardly get your car parked in a double yellow line for 5 minutes before somebody's there to give you a ticket. But we have 2 dog wardens across this entire district, and we expect them to be able to eradicate this problem. The difficulty being is that across this council area, they can't be everywhere. So I think we have to look at how we continue with the current education piece and how we look at ways where we can increase it. And maybe it is going on to schools, maybe it is going out to youth clubs and doing a bit of work with youth clubs, taking the dog wardens in, and I don't know, people far better equipped to work with young people than what I am. I'm sure we'll be able to develop some sort of partnership program over a number of weeks, and hopefully that would transpire, and then when they're out walking their dog, or when they're out with their granny and granddad walking their dog, they'll take the bags and pick up the poo and all of that. But just sticking a sign up or a billboard up down the Strand Road saying that the fine's now £100, in my opinion, is a waste of marketing money and a waste of time, because it's not going to change anything. The only way to try and tackle this is by education, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Doyle.
Absolutely agree with absolutely everything that's been said, particularly Michaela's point about grass, because we had an awful incident recently down in Ballyarnett where people were using quads in the grass area around the black pads and had spurred up all sorts of muck, but a lot of it was dog's dirt. And when we tried to have that addressed, you get to the point where there's only so much that we can do. And fining people isn't working. We could put up a fine to £1,000. I don't think it's we're not catching anybody to hand out the fine because we don't have the capacity. So the fine issue is what it is, but it isn't going to address what we're talking about. I mean, I got a phone call from a gentleman in Craigan Street last week, and I honestly, the street, you would have had to do hopscotch up it in order to not stand in something. It was horrendous. But I've been to streets, as I'm sure we all have, all over the place, which have been exactly the same. The people who are going to who are doing it are going to keep doing it until such times as we either have the capacity to clamp down on it and do so consistently, or a new generation comes through, like Brian said, in terms of young people being educated to ensure this doesn't happen. Because it's, at the moment, we are fighting a losing battle. And I think it's very clear to the public that that's the case, because, there are people who will contact us all and who have contacted me saying such and such has allowed their dog to foul outside my front door. But even when we get to the stage of trying to address that, it doesn't necessarily have the desired impact. And it has got to the stage where there needs to be fresh thinking about this, because I think we've done everything we can do within a council perspective, and we need to maybe start looking at partners and being able to do this, whether that's, for example, the youth service, who are fantastic at what they do, and all of the youth workers throughout the city, or we really focus on enforcement, because at the moment the formula that we're utilising just doesn't work.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. Look, first of all, I want to condemn the incident at Ballyarnett. I think it's been a very gruesome issue. Shocking to hear the news that a dog was buried alive with serious injuries and had to put down after. But in relation to raising the issue and around, from 80 to £100, I can understand the merit of it, if we were winning the battle. But what we're going to do here, say we do, if we did increase from 80 to 100, as somebody else said, we're going to have to change every other sign in the council area, which will cost thousands of pounds, I would say, to change signage within our parks and our green space areas and everywhere that we have them. So part of me is thinking, yes, look, we need to roll out more on education through our schools and through our young ones coming on. And this is not, I will put on the record, there are many, and the majority out there are good. They look after their dogs, they clean up after them, they do the job. But there's many out there just don't give a damn and around whether their dog fouls on grass, whether some footpaths or wherever it might be, public spaces, they just don't care. I have thought long and hard about it, and look, unfortunately, I would be against the recommendation in light of the cost of living crisis and around the raising the fee. So, unfortunately, I would be against the recommendation on that there. But look, as everybody else has said, this has been an issue in council, and I'm in council, the old council since 2005, and we're now in 2023, and we're still debating about dog fowl. And look, see, if we were issuing out hundreds of fines every year and around that, we could reinvest that money in education through money that we could earn through that, but it's not happening. But Chair, we would not be supporting the recommendation, but advising that we go out on something after the new mandate of council on education once again around the schools or stakeholders that may get involved. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Just to inform members as well, I was on Radio Foyle a few weeks ago, and the stats that they had was that one PCN was issued in the last 18 months. So the number of fines are very, very low. Members, I think that's all indicated speakers. I don't think we've got agreement on it. I think Councillor Harkin says it needs to be more, Councillor Boyle more, and then there's an education piece that people were supporting as well. So the recommendation is to consider increasing the fine to £100. I don't think there's... Yep, Councillor Farrell, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to propose the recommendation. I know there's people saying that, it's not going to make a difference because we're not fining people or we're fining very few people. But, we have an opportunity here to send a message to the people that are engaging in this. And, there's a few here that maybe, we shouldn't bother. I think we should. Because if we don't, we're basically saying, just go and do what you want across the city and district because we don't really care. And that's not the view, in my opinion. And Councillor Tierney says that more needs to be done. I totally agree with that. But we do have the power to have a bigger deterrent here today. We have limited powers, but we can say, if you're caught dog fouling, we're not going to charge you, fine you 80 quid, we're going to put it up to 100. And I think that's right. That's the message we should be sending out here today. So I'm going to propose a recommendation.
Thank you. And I completely agree with you. I would put it up higher myself, but would remain impartial. But I completely agree with you. Yep, Councillor Boyle, go ahead.
It costs £1 for 100 dog bags in the pound shop, and there's no reason why people shouldn't be carrying them. There's loads of dog bins about in every corner of every street now, almost. And I would encourage anybody in any area that doesn't have one to get in contact with an elected rep or council directly to get one. But, as Councillor Farrell said, nobody wants to see anybody getting a fine. But, if I don't tax my car, and sure, I'll get a fine. and we're not comparing apples and oranges here, but, you know, if it's the law, then you have to be within the law. So I'm happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, I don't support increasing it to £100. I think that 80 is a lot, and the problem that's been pointed out is that nobody's getting fined, even £80, so it's not acting as a deterrent anyway. And I don't think it sends a message out that if you don't support increasing the fine to £100, that we're saying go ahead, do what you want. I think that we've made it very, very clear that dog fouling is disgusting and unacceptable, and that we want to see it stopped, and we want dog owners to be responsible for what their dogs do, and that the vast majority of dog owners do that. But that we're debating whether or not increasing the fine to £100 is going to actually make the difference, and I don't think it is, and I think it's the easy way out for the council. I think the fact that we've had this discussion, and if it gets a bit of coverage, will raise the spotlight once again about the issue of dog fouling in the district. And in fact, I think that when we talk about it, or when others talk about it, and it's in local papers and it's getting discussed and people are going and thinking about it, that I think is the key thing. And we can't do it all the time. I thought that the awareness campaign, when we did it, was very, very effective. And I think that it went down in the streets. You take the foot off the gas, and unfortunately, you know, we all open up our front doors sometimes and we don't want to see what's out there, and it, you know, sits there for a week sometimes. If you can't get to it, it's disgusting and it's dangerous. So look, I don't have an alternative proposal. I'm not going to put one forward, but I'm you know, I want to make it clear that I don't think increasing it by £20 is going to be the key difference.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Apologies, I may have misquoted you earlier, so apologies for that. Councillor Tierney, go ahead.
Yep, thank you. Part of what Councillor Harkin was saying is that £80, increasing it from £80 to £100 isn't the answer. I agree with you. It's not the answer, but it's part of it. The other part of it, in my opinion, is education around it. We can't just put this up to £100 and think, oh, well, that's grand, we've got dealt with now, we don't need to come back to it. We have to keep continuously working at this. So if you're caught, it's your fault. Let's be honest. You stood and let your dog do it, didn't lift it and walked away. If you're caught, it's your fault. It's not our fault. As Councillor Boyle said, no, the bags are very cheap. But fining people isn't the only way that we're going to resolve this. It needs to be continuous education. But if someone's caught, £100 is a sorer lesson than £80, and they might not be as quick to allow their dog to do it again. And I think, just from my own experience, that this will be welcomed by people across the district. If we are ensuring that not only are we putting the fine up, that we're going to look at the educational campaign that this council should be undertaking as well, and how we do that. And I think where we could possibly start is with young people in schools and in youth clubs, and any setting where we can actually get in to speak to them and allow the dog wardens to go on and explain why and all of the dangers around it, and try and make it full. They lift the dog dirt after it. There was a song a number of years ago that children were taught in school. Can't remember it, and I'm not the best singer, so I'm not going to sing it for you. But it was to encourage parents not to be on the mobile phone whenever you were driving. And I know of children who would have sung it in the car so that their parents didn't go on the phone, and it was effective. I'm not saying that that's what we do, but I think it's an example of how young people can determine the behaviours of adults. And I think that's where we need to start to try and break this cycle. And I think that's what we should be looking at. So I would like to see some type of plan of how we're going to run an awareness stroke educational plan with young people around dogfiling, because that's where I think we need to kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me back in. And on reflection, on listening to the last number of speakers and around here, I think Councillor Boyle made Michaela Boyle, £1 for so many bags. And on reflection, look, I did say that I wouldn't support the recommendation, but on reflection and listening to a number of speakers on moving forward here, I would be happy now to support the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. And the final speaker is Councillor Boyle. Go ahead.
Thanks for letting me in again, Chair. I'm just thinking here while we're talking. We have a fantastic social media, Facebook. The mayor has, the council has, and one way we could even I suppose, get the information out there about the fine being increased, and that is maybe just the mayor, who is a dog owner, out along the quays, walking with her dog, encouraging people to lift their... That's cost effective. It doesn't cost any money to do that campaign. Someone goes along with the mayor and a camera down to the quays. I mean, Councillor Tierney exactly done it whenever he was mayor, and we all bought into it. And there was a good media campaign at that time around that, and it was very well lifted and received. So maybe that's an action maybe for the mayor's office, if she could be out with her dog walking, and then we could all share it, and and that's a good way of getting out the message that we are increasing the fines and that there is a zero tolerance to dog fouling across the city and district. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I remember having Councillor Tierney as mayor and saying Mills in the cold and in the wet, walking about. He said it was one of the most beautiful areas of the council, the weir up there, and it's a pity that it's blighted with dog fouling. It's the same as the canal as well, Michaela, down in Strabane as well. Okay, yep, Councillor Duffy, go ahead.
Just obviously agree with Michaela. That's free, social media. You could do something there. The reach of the council Facebook and the mayor's Facebook is there. Like, it's not going to cost anything. Just on Councillor Tierney there, I'm a youth worker, so I work with young people every day of the week. If I grabbed a group of my teenagers and told them we're going to talk about dog poo tonight, they'd bat me out the doors to do too. But I do agree with you, education is important. You're sort of primary school age, so then primary school age, and then they're taking it forward, and as you said, the wee catchy stuff like songs and all that all works. Because the weans at that age, they're so absorbent and they take all this stuff in. So that would be a campaign that possibly you could take forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Okay, members, we have the proposal to accept the recommendation proposed Councillor Farrell, second Councillor Michaela Boyle. Councillor Hargan, you're against? Yep. Okay, everyone else for? We just know Councillor Hargan's against, or are they going for a full vote? Karen, you happy with that?
I'm okay.
Yep, okay. Okay, members, I'm going to move on to the penultimate item and open business for decision, and that's item 15, the Southwest Acute Hospital consultation. And Seamus, you're taking this one.
Chair, the purpose of the report is to seek members' approval of the draft response to the consultation launched by the Trust on the change of emergency general surgery at the Southwest Acute Hospital in Skillen. Members, you'll be aware that Council requested a meeting with the Trust to discuss the consultation, and in particular how the changes to the emergency surgery in the SWA will impact residents in the southern part of this council area and any knock-on effect on the Geldon Hospital, including capacity. It's unusual that a consultation would occur after a change to the service has been made. However, difficulties with staff retention and recruitment has been cited as the reason for temporary suspension of the emergency general surgery at the SWA from the 5th of December 22. And members, it's recommended you note the report and endorse the draft consultation response.
Seamus, thank you for that. And I originally brought this to under Chair's business proposal. I'm happy to propose this item if we can get a seconder. Yep, Councillor Boyle. Michaela, do you want to speak on it, or are you happy enough? Happy enough? Yep. Everyone happy with item 15? Yep. Thanks, members. Item 16 is the Health and Community Directorate Annual Service Plan for 2023-24, and Karen's taking this item.
Members, we're presenting the delivery plan for the Directorate this evening. I'm conscious that this is the third plan that you've probably read and saw this week, so you'll be aware at the stage of the standardised format that the Directorate plan forwards. Obviously, this plan is to communicate and cascade the Council's objectives as set out in the corporate plan, but it's also an important element of our Council commitment to continuous improvement. So Appendix 1 sets out the Director's services, a progress update in relation to 22-23, albeit that some of those are caveated at month 9 or month 10. And importantly, the key priorities, actions and measures of success that we intend to take forward in 23-24. You'll be aware that we've had a lead performance improvement objective around healthy lifestyles over the term of this council, and we would hope to continue that as we move forward, and in addition to take forward the cost savings for 23-24 that were agreed and outlined as part of the rate setting process. Members, we're seeking your approval of the plan this evening and any relevant comments. And presenting the plan, members, I want to thank and acknowledge the work of my own team within the Directorate, because this is a composite reflection of all of the strands of service across both leisure and community development and our environmental health services. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any members want to comment on the paper? Or get a proposer and seconder? Yeah.
For it, a lot of detail in it, and particularly the focus, particularly on children and young people, as always, is very welcome. There was a part there, just, yeah, the age-friendly strategy and action plan, just in terms of the Donegal County Council and the work here with our own council, the joint working group to explore options for further cross-border age-friendly initiatives across our district and region. I just wondered, Karen, is there any more information on that? I know it's probably ongoing, and I know just I've been contacted today by someone on AGNA, and I think they may have wrote to council back in January in regards to age-friendly issues in terms of carers and that. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask you to respond on that, but just to maybe elaborate just on the joint working with Donegal County Council in terms of the age-friendly initiative across the district and across the Northwest region. And what are there any programmes, and what are the programmes?
Members, I'm not aware of the specific correspondence, but we do work in partnership with AGNI and a lot of other age platforms and networks across the district. So, and we do attend a series of those regional meetings. Our age-friendly officers is really quite proactive in this role. In terms of the detail of the programme, I'm happy to bring back a report or a presentation, even by means of an informal information session, because I think it is really important that we get engagement across members and we start to communicate beyond our, sort of our normal sort of messaging mechanisms. So happy to table that, members, when you have the resolve to come back to dealing with council business. Thanks.
Okay, are you happy with that? Okay. Councillor Farr?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that on behalf of the SDLP, and I hope that myself, Brian, Lillian and Stephen are here to see it through after the election.
Hopefully. Thank you, Councillor Farr. Members, I see no further indicated speakers. Item 16 proposed by Councillor Boyle, second by Councillor Farr. Any objections? No. Members will take item 16 as passed. Members, the next 10 items, items 17 to 27, are open for information. If anyone wants to raise any of them, please let me know. Okay, members, we'll move on to confidential. Can I get a proposer and seconder for confidential? Proposed, Councillor. Alderman Guy, is it? Yep.
Yeah, Chair, sorry about that. I was looking to come in under 20, Waterside Shared Village, if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead. Dan,
Yeah,
go ahead.
thank you. Let's get back onto the screen again here. Thanks. Look, I've been contacted by a few of the guys from Tully Alley football team, Tully Alley Colts, who had applied for some training space at the new Waterside Shared Village. Obviously, we can't accommodate everybody, but after applying, they received an email. They stated that they were unsuccessful. Since then, now they've been given an hour's training, I think, on a Tuesday and Thursday night from 9 to 10, which isn't really adequate for the team, like, you know. But look, I met with Steve Setterfield and had a look over the bookings there about 2 weeks ago. I'm well aware that there was a signed agreement between Irish Street Football Club and Top of the Hill Celtic that they would agree in training slots. Pierce GAA, as I'm aware, were not part of the original agreement. So I don't know whenever they actually did come in, or did they actually sign up to it, or were they just granted because they were part of the Top of the Hill setup. But basically all the major slots were taken. Like I'm not no Top of the Hill Celtic, they're a young side, they're a youth side, so they took the early slots. That's fair enough. And Cluny, who are a young side, they got in at 8 to 10. Pierce GAA, they were taking Friday, which no football teams want to train on anyway. But I think Pierce also got Monday and a slot on the Tuesday, which, you know, I think it could have been done a wee bit fair. Instead of top loading a lot of the teams there, you know, they spread it out a bit more. I know there's not a lot, there's teams in the Waterside who didn't bother applying, they're happy where they train. But my understanding was that, you know, Tully Alley have been continuously told that by officers that they would they will be included in the slots when they come available in the Waterside Shared Village, and this is why they wouldn't get a mugga pitch at the time. Now I know that's changing now because there's a project going on for Peace Plus, and hopefully there'll be a bit of change there. But they were under the understanding that they were going to get training time up at this here pitch, and it hasn't been forthcoming. You know, the shared context of the bookings hasn't been great unless you're Irish Street and Top of the Hill. And I have to question is, like, was this a district project or is it just a Top of the Hill Irish Street project? Because, you know, I don't think the numbers would add up, for one. And I think that, you know, I would like to see basically the full business case and the funding model used in bringing about the Waterside Shared Village, because I'm sure that the likes of Tully Alley and Currynearn were included in that business case. They make the case for the Waterside Shared Village. And, you know, if we're going to do things fairly here, I think it definitely needs looked at. And I know that speaking with Karen earlier, that there may be a meeting coming up, which I'd be quite happy to attend as well, if it's open to members. But I think that it does need looked at, and I think that you know, there's a lot of questions being asked from people in the Waterside. They don't think that they've got a fair crackle up here. So thanks, Chair, for all that there. So I'll leave it with Barry if he wants to come in on that. I'm quite happy now that Steve has filled me in and all those there. Anytime I've spoke to Steve, he's met with me, you know, and talked me through it. But there's just been questions raised from a few different teams there, you know, on the outside of it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Guy, is it Karen or Barry coming in? Yeah. Barry, yeah.
Through yourself, Chair, as Alderman Guy has indicated, we have an elected members briefing planned. We can go over the detail around this, but just a wee bit of context around it. There's a shared programme of activity that was part of the application to SAUPB. Obviously, SAUPB funded €8 million for this, so that involved Irish Street Football Club, Top of Hill Celtic and Pierce's as the three component parts around the shared programme of activity. So they were to get a number of slots to deliver that shared programme of activity. And then there's an open booking call, the same way we have our open booking call for all our facilities. And unfortunately, as members in this chamber will be aware, you know, we don't have enough training facilities, we don't have enough pitches in the district, so there's always winners and losers at every facility, particularly 3G. So yeah, you're correct, Tully Alley Football Club were one of a number of sports clubs across a number of different codes that were unsuccessful in getting all of the bookings that they required. I do believe subsequently Institute Football Club couldn't avail of 2 bookings, and those have been since offered to Tully Alley Football Club. So yeah, just to clarify, there are 3 groups that are part of the shared programme of activity, and then the rest was based on an open call where Waterside clubs get first protocol, then leagues and all of the rest. So I think you mentioned Darren Clooney are in there, Irish Street are in there. Irish Street Football Club declined a number of bookings because they just don't have the capacity. And then the local leagues then get an allocation on a Saturday. And I think Institute Academies and on Sunday, I think that's what it is. So yeah, unfortunately, like with all our facilities, there's winners and losers, but it's all based 100% on our criteria. The difficulty is we don't have enough slots and we don't have enough pitches to cater for all our clubs across the district.
Thank you, Barry.
Just to add to that, for your information, members, there is a briefing session for councillors from the DEA. I think that's in the diaries, just to outline the wider strategy for the utilisation of Waterside shared village space.
Councillor Jackson, apologies for not bringing it earlier.
No problem, Chair. I'll know not to criticise you for not letting us have a break. It's my payback. But I suppose the first and foremost, the Waterside Shared Village is a fantastic facility. It's much needed facility, not only in the sports facilities, but you see this week around the St. Patrick's Day events, bringing the community together, bringing the people of Irish Street and Top of Hill together. And it's building on that fantastic work that's been going on for years between the two communities. And it is disappointing that there isn't the capacity to meet all the demands. I'm getting complaints or concerns raised from St Mary's GAC and Ardmore because they're not getting there's no space for them. I'm getting clubs contacting me from the other parts of the city. Don Bosco's has been in contact with me a few times. And believe it or not, I've had quite a few very difficult conversations with Top of Hill Celtic themselves, because there's no way. Just to put it into context, Top of Hill Celtic have 600 young people on their books, as well as do Pierceid there at Trasna, and the demand for training facilities is huge. You know, they travel all over the city and district and beyond to train. But there was a lot of work that was done the shared village application, and it was done in conjunction with those local clubs because of the demand that was there. There was a criteria that was drawn up where there would be preferred slots allocated to local clubs in Topahill and Irish Street, because the whole purpose of the Waterside Shared Village is to bring people together, through sport, and it's something that thankfully was endorsed, and that vision was endorsed by SUPB, and we were able to secure the funding on the back of that. It was on the back of bringing people together in an area that was for far too long divided. So that was the principle of that funding, and unfortunately, because we've seen how peace money has been utilised, they really advance and deliver for our communities, and hopefully under the next peace programme we'll see similar investment in Cranear and Tullyalley and Drumahoe. So that and unfortunately, because of Brexit, this is our last opportunity. No, and that's the elephant in the room. There needs to be more investment. There needs to, and we're losing one of our levers of drawing on funding because of a Tory policy. They take us out of Europe against our will. I think it's dangerous that we start criticising and picking holes in this. I would encourage council officers to work with all sporting organisations right across our city and district. They look to see if there's any way that we can accommodate them. But we always knew that this was going to be it's a step in the right direction, but it was never going to be the panacea. It was never going to address the huge demand for training facilities, even in the Waterside. Chair, I asked, I think it might have been last meeting or the meeting before, that we have an update or we have a paper brought to committee around the use of 3G facilities, how much they're utilised, because I am being contacted quite regularly by sporting organisations critical of council's booking system, and I know there was some explanation given around the Ryan McBride Stadium, around the UEFA stipulations around how many hours can be used on that pitch. But there are concerns around people coming along and they see pitches, they're looking for bookings and they can't get them, but whenever they go, they see that only half the pitch has been used, I think in terms of council, we should be looking at all our 3G pitches to see how we can maximise the use of them. And it's unfortunate before the end of this mandate that we haven't received that paper, but we are who we are. I've no doubt that paper will be provided to a future meeting of this committee, and it will be discussed on that basis. But the Waterside Shared Village is a fantastic facility. There's no doubt about that. The whole purpose of it is to bring people together. They try and remove division. I would hate to see it being used as a stick to divide people, and I would urge Alderman Guy, who hasn't obviously been involved in the work of the Waterside Shared Village, but I would urge him to refrain from using this to divide people in the Waterside, because it's very dangerous. Again, I would encourage council officers to work with all organisations to ensure that we maximise the use of our training facilities. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I agree with you on the 3G pitch, and Barry, just on that, and to sort of pigtail on that, I would be grateful, whether here or not, to get a report, an update on the advertisements in Melvin, because I know that there's a difference between the city, or the policy between the city and the former Strabane district, but it would be good to get an update on where that policy is in terms of agreeing it.
Through yourself, Chair, members will be aware we have a sponsorship policy. We have a number of identified tiered sites, so like the Brandywell's a tier 1. So if there's any clubs that are looking to know how they use advertising at Melvin, the officer team can provide that. We actually do have we do have a policy and we have a price list for that would be deemed as a tier 2 site. So we do have that information for any clubs that want to avail of that.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to get into the argument around Waterside shared village because I'm not 100% across the detail of it. But if there is a briefing, the SDLP reps for that area will be there. And I know that they've been involved right throughout the process around the shared village. And I know, speaking to them, I know how impressed they are with that facility and what they see that facility can do for that particular area in the coming years. So they will deal with the booking system and all of that at the briefing. In relation to Councillor Jackson's other point around the use of 3 and 4G facilities, I would be very keen to see that as well. I know in our own DA and Leafair, you can't get a minute on it. Very, very popular site. One that's, I think if we were to look to expand anywhere, Leafair would be one of the areas which would be certainly top of our list, only because it's very, very well used. But I would be interested to see how we manage them best. I know, for example, teams with foil harps have to travel out to the Vale Centre for training and for matches, and it proves very, very difficult. When you have a top-class facility in your own area and you're taking maybe 20 or 30 young people to Grey Steel to train or to play a match, it's difficult then for, and Barry, I've spoken to you about this before, it's difficult then for people to come and watch them, relatives to come and watch them and watch them progress and things like that. So I would be keen to see that report coming back as well, because I think it would be very interesting. And I think, if there is a better way that we can do it, we can. And if we are looking to expand our 3G facilities, we could start at Leafair and work our way out there, But we have to get the car park sorted out first, Barry. Thanks very much.
Okay, members, we'll draw the discussion of Waterside shared village to a close. Members, Alderman Guy, I'm going to give you a response and give you the final word on this item, and we're going to move into confidential. Go ahead, Alderman Guy.
Thanks, Chair. I appreciate that. No, just in response to Councillor Jackson. I'm quite happy that the shared village is open. I think it's a fantastic setup, and it'll only improve the more usage it gets. But if someone comes to me with a concern, then I have to bring it forward. And we know that there's not enough slots for everybody, but sitting quiet isn't going to improve anything. But I'm quite happy to see it working, and I'm looking forward to it getting up to its full potential in the summer when the pitches and all are finished.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. Members, can I proposer and seconder for confidential? Going to move on. Proposed seconder for confidential. Proposed seconder. Okay, we'll just wait until we get into confidential.